36 days of arduous effort culminated in Chu Xuan standing triumphantly atop the Haotai Hotel, his form radiating exhaustion yet brimming with satisfaction. Before him hovered a pitch-black chain, its surface flickering with ghostly light. Faint, sorrowful wails seemed to emanate from the artifact, a testament to the tormented souls bound within. Finally done, Chu Xuan muttered, a satisfied smile crossing his face. The evil soul chain, his newly crafted life-bound magic tool, had been forged without a hitch, as though the heavens themselves had willed it so. He gave a thought, and the chain sprang to life, zipping through the air with a deafening crash as it obliterated a section of the hotel's wall. At his command, it coiled back around him, slithering like a snake before resting against his waist like a belt. This was no ordinary artifact, it was a life-bound magic tool, intimately connected to Chu Xuan's soul. The forging process required him to sever a fragment of his own soul, binding it to the chain. As a result, the tool felt like an extension of his own body, responding to his will with perfect precision. With each moment it remained on his person, the spiritual qi within his dantian nurtured the chain, allowing its power to grow alongside his cultivation. Now that my life-bound tool is complete, Chu Xuan mused, it's time to focus on other areas of improvement. Foundation establishment stage spells and my gu insects. He glanced down at his left forearm, where a small bulge under the skin marked the location of a blood steel wire gu egg he had implanted months ago. However, upon sensing its status, he found no changes. Still dormant, he murmured, shaking his head. No matter. I'll focus on mastering spells first. Cultivating Foundation establishment spells. Chu Xuan retrieved the Blood Evil Demon Refining Scripture, a manual containing techniques for Foundation establishment stage demonic cultivators. The scripture was divided into 9 levels, each corresponding to a level of cultivation within the stage. The first level granted mastery over an evil escape, a lower-tier evasion technique that could rival superior spells when fueled by an evil chi. The second level introduced the attack spell an evil demon claw, a devastating ability that became exponentially more powerful when supplemented with an evil chi. For most demonic cultivators, acquiring an evil chi was a challenge. Natural sources of this energy were tightly controlled by the righteous sections. But for Chu Xuan, such resources were abundant. He had already established the an evil soul-snatching array, a site saturated with an evil chi. To maximize these spells, I need a vessel to store an evil chi, Chu Xuan decided. Over the next few days, he crafted 20 small jade bottles, each no larger than his palm. The bottles were inscribed with chi-gathering formations, allowing them to accumulate an evil chi. Though small, each bottle could store enough chi to fuel an extended escape of over 300 li or unleash several devastating attacks. Once the bottles were complete, Chu Xuan ventured into the an evil soul-snatching array. He buried the jade bottles at strategic points, ensuring they would collect an evil chi from the array's crisscrossing energies. At the array's center, he sat cross-legged, immersing himself in cultivation. This environment is ideal, he thought, as the dense an evil chi accelerated his progress. I'll break through to the second level of Foundation establishment in one go. The Sanctuary of Dragon River City. Far to the north, Dragon River City, the provincial capital of Linjiang, stood as a beacon of stability amidst the chaos of the zombie apocalypse. The sprawling metropolis, bisected by the mighty Dragon River, was divided into 2 distinct sectors. To the north lay academic institutions, including the renowned Life Sciences Research Institute, while the south housed corporate headquarters and the barracks of the Linjiang military. In the aftermath of the outbreak, General Yi Nantian, commander of the Linjiang army, had imposed martial law, establishing 3 strict rules that brought order to the city. His decisive actions transformed Dragon River City into a sanctuary for survivors across the province. From atop a towering building, General Yi Nantian gazed over the city, his hands clasped behind his back. His weathered face reflected both his years of service and the weight of leadership, streaks of silver at his temples betraying his age. General, a close aide approached, bowing respectfully, Chief Zhang from the Research Institute is here. Yi Nantian nodded. Send him in. Moments later, Zhang Baoshan, a leading researcher, entered the reception room, his excitement barely contained. General Yi, I bring good news. The experiments on the 3rd-level psionic core retrieved from East Lake City have yielded promising results. We've successfully developed a new batch of psionic potions, and animal testing has already begun. With continued progress, we may achieve mass production within a year or 2. Excellent news, Yi Nantian said with a rare smile. Such advancements will be critical for humanity's survival. Zhang Baoshan hesitated before adding, General, about the cultivator I mentioned previously. Yi Nantian waved dismissively. A cultivator? He's just another superhuman with unique talents. There's no need to overthink it. Still, Zheng Baoshan pressed, if we could ally with him, his abilities would be an invaluable asset. We must ensure he doesn't fall into enemy hands.
Yi Nantian nodded. I'll keep it in mind.
####the Beast of the Dragon River. As Zheng Baoshan departed, another aide hurried into the room, his expression urgent. General, a massive aquatic creature has been detected in the Dragon River Basin. It's over 30 meters in length. Yi Nanshan's brows furrowed. How many people know about this? Only 4 soldiers stationed on the riverbanks witnessed it, the aide replied. Good, Yi Nantian said sharply. Bring those soldiers to the general's mansion immediately. Seal their lips. No rumors of this creature are to spread. Anyone who disobeys will be detained. The aide saluted.
Yes, sir.
How many commanders are currently in the city?
Yi Nantian asked.
5 remain in the city. The others are deployed escorting convoys or guarding assets outside. Summon them all for an emergency meeting, Yi Nantian ordered. We must prepare for every possibility.
At once, General.
The aide hurried off, leaving Yi Nantian deep in thought, the weight of the situation pressing heavily on his shoulders. Half an hour later, 5 commanders gathered in the general's mansion in Dragon River City. Each one carried a distinct appearance, some tall and muscular, others lean and wiry. Their whispered conversations filled the waiting room as they speculated about the purpose of their sudden assembly. What could this be about? One asked, crossing his arms. Calling all 5 of us must mean it's something major, another replied, frowning. Moments later, a guard gestured for them to enter. Inside the reception room, General Yi Nantian stood with his hands clasped behind his back, his presence commanding. The 5 commanders quickly took their seats, awaiting his word. Yi Nantian gestured toward a stack of thin documents before them. The materials are prepared for you.
Read them.
The commanders flipped through the papers, their initial curiosity giving way to grim expressions. A 30-meter-long aquatic creature? Could it be the one that attacked the cargo ship last month? If this monster isn't dealt with, water transport in Linjiang will remain paralyzed. One commander slammed the table. General, with nearly 80,000 troops, we should be able to kill this beast. Yi Nanshan's gaze swept over them, his tone calm but firm. Killing it outright may prove impossible. This creature's strength is at least 3rd level, and in the water, its domain, it could rival a 4th level. Your mission isn't to destroy it, but to strike fear into it. Drive it back and make it think twice before entering our waters again. The commanders rose in unison, saluting.
Understood.
###Chu Xuan's mastery. In East Lake City, a streak of sinister energy zipped through the air. One moment it was still, the next it leaped across rooftops, its movements as swift as a gale. The figure came to a halt atop a signal tower, its clawed hand crushing a nearby telephone pole into dust. It was Chu Xuan, and his expression brimmed with exhilaration. That morning, he had broken through to the 2nd level of Foundation Establishment, mastering 2 new spells from the Blood Evil Demon Refining Scripture, Een Evil Escape and Een Evil Demon Claw. When powered by Een Evil Chi, these spells surpass expectations, he murmured. They rival superior Foundation Establishment techniques and provide me with overwhelming speed and power. Chu Xuan had come far since arriving in this apocalyptic realm. From the 9th level of Chi refining, he had advanced to Foundation Establishment and now possessed a host of formidable tools. Evil Soul Chain, his life-bound magical tool. Heavenly Star Flying Sword, refined beyond recognition. Goldenwood Shield, a high-grade defensive artifact. With these tools and spells, Chu Xuan felt invincible, even against enemies like Sun Shi, a Foundation Establishment cultivator who had once targeted him. It's time to return, Chu Xuan decided. The Evil Soul Chain requires one final piece, a Foundation Establishment cultivator's living soul. ###A return to the Mystic Azure Realm. Back at the Haotai Hotel, Chu Xuan gave final instructions to his corpse puppets. Hu and Bao were to remain behind, with Hu charged with disciplining Bao. Long, the strongest yet most rebellious of the puppets, would accompany him. With his preparations complete, Chu Xuan activated the blood mirror, vanishing from the apocalyptic world in an instant. Hu, having experienced the phenomenon before, remained calm. Bao, however, was startled. Where has the master gone? Bao whimpered, its eyes darting suspiciously. Hu growled lowly, delivering a sharp blow that silenced Bao's errant thoughts. ###at the Peace Market. Chu Xuan reappeared in the Mystic Azure Realm, his appearance altered to that of a bald, intimidating man. His fierce demeanor ensured no one approached him as he walked through the Peace Market. The atmosphere in the market had shifted drastically. Through casual inquiries, Chu Xuan learned that the Wu family, the previous rulers of the market, had been raided by the Divine Star Sect. Accused of harboring remnants of the Infinite Sect, the Wu family had been annihilated, with thousands executed. Only a few, including the patriarch Wu Tong, had managed to escape. Chu Xuan felt a twinge of relief. Good thing I didn't join Lu Zhenxiong and his group. Staying low was the right choice. From his perch by a tea-house window, he sipped tea, eavesdropping on nearby conversations. With his advanced cultivation, he no longer needed tools to listen in on gossip. Much of the talk revolved around the fall of Wan Wuying, one of the Infinite Sect's last Golden Core cultivators. Surrounded by 3 Golden Core experts from the Divine Star Sect and Golden Dragon Temple, Wan Wuying had perished in a battle that shocked the Yu Kingdom. The Infinite Sect is nearly extinct, Chu Xuan mused. With Wan Wuying gone, their influence in the region is all but eradicated. While the alliance between the Divine Star Sect and Golden Dragon Temple was surprising, it mattered little to him. His focus remained singular. I need a Foundation Establishment stage soul, he muttered. If cultivators prove too elusive, perhaps a Foundation Establishment demonic beast will suffice. ##### the Cloud Mist Mountains. Leaving the Peace Market, Chu Xuan mounted the Heavenly Star Flying Sword and flew south. His refined weapon, its appearance completely altered, could no longer be linked to its original owner. After a day of travel, Chu Xuan arrived at the Cloud Mist Mountains, a vast range shrouded in dense fog. Known for its abundance of demonic beasts, it was an ideal hunting ground. The mountains spanned the border between Tong Province and Wu Province, with the Green River Prefecture, Chu Xuan's former home, nestled within Tong Province. From his vantage point, the mountains appeared otherworldly, their misty peaks reminiscent of a celestial realm. If I can't find a Foundation Establishment cultivator, a demonic beast soul will do just fine, Chu Xuan resolved, descending into the heart of the mist-laden range.
The hunt had begun.
Hey everyone, welcome to Firescale Audiobooks. If you enjoy the audiobooks, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. If you'd like to support us further, consider becoming a Patreon member. As a member, you'll gain the ability to request the next part of a novel audiobook I've uploaded, depending on your Patreon tier.
Chu Xuan sheathed his flying sword and strolled forward. Upon arriving at the Misty Mountains and just as he was about to enter, 2 figures swiftly flew in from either side. 2 were dressed in the robes of the Divine Star Sect disciples. 2 wore the robes of the Golden Dragon Temple disciples. However, they were all at the Qi refining stage. The 4 looked at Chu Xuan with unfriendly expressions. Chu Xuan furrowed his brows. It was his first time at the Misty Mountains. How had he offended both the Divine Star Sect and the Golden Dragon Temple simultaneously? Feigning fear, Chu Xuan cupped his hands and said, "Honorable fellow Taoists, I am but a loose cultivator. Why do you block my path?" The 2 monks from the Golden Dragon Temple chuckled softly. "Where have you come from, and where are you headed?" Chu Xuan replied, "I come from White River Prefecture, intending to enter the Misty Mountains to slay demonic beasts and earn some spirit stones." White River Prefecture lay at the foot of the Misty Mountains. He did not mention coming from Green River Prefecture. After all, Green River Prefecture was located in central Tong Province, far from the Misty Mountains. If he were only at the Qi refining stage, it would be impossible to travel such a distance to kill demonic beasts for spirit stones. A disciple of the Divine Star Sect scrutinized Chu Xuan. "You claim to be a loose cultivator. Do you have proof?" Chu Xuan scratched his head anxiously. "Proof? I have been a loose cultivator for over 50 years. The disciple of the Divine Star Sect sneered. "I think you are pretending to be a loose cultivator to enter the Misty Mountains and rescue someone. You are clearly a demonic cultivator. Everyone, attack and kill this fiend." With those words, the 4 surrounded him. The 2 disciples of the Divine Star Sect wielded their swords, while the 2 disciples of the Golden Dragon Temple brandished their Vajra rods. They moved as if they had practiced many times before. In the blink of an eye, the 4 magical tools cast an impenetrable net. No matter how Chu Xuan tried to escape, he could not elude their attack range. The 4 exchanged knowing smiles. In recent days, they had used this method to jointly kill 8 loose cultivators. No Qi refining stage cultivator could withstand such an encirclement. Yet, before their eyes could register, Chu Xuan vanished, leaving only a faint evil aura. The 4 were momentarily stunned. Then, a bloodline streaked across the air. In an instant, 4 heads flew, blood gushing like a fountain. Chu Xuan swiftly gathered the 4 corpses into his storage bag. He meticulously examined the storage bags of the 4 and discovered that they had indeed killed numerous loose cultivators, collecting several storage bags. From one of the storage bags, he even found an order from a Foundation Establishment stage cultivator.
So, this is it.
Lu Zhenxiong and his men were discovered, fleeing southward until they finally hid in the vast misty mountains. Several Foundation Establishment stage cultivators led a large number of Qi refining stage cultivators into the mountains to search for them, while these Qi refining stage disciples guarded the foot of the mountains. As long as they could kill a demonic cultivator, they would receive considerable sect contributions. The Qi refining stage disciples stationed outside then conceived the idea of killing innocents for merit. Unauthorized duplication. This narrative has been taken without consent.
Report sightings. Chu Xuan scoffed.
Wasting no time, he immediately plunged into the thick fog of the misty mountains. He had initially thought he would have to settle for the soul of a Foundation Establishment stage demonic beast as his weapon spirit. Now, it seemed there were better options. The Foundation Establishment stage cultivators searching the depths of the misty mountains for Lu Zhenxiong and his men were, after all, walking souls. In the process, he could also enrich his myriad souls banner. In a cave within the misty mountains, Su Ming, Chen Gu Wei Hua, and Bai Feng trembled, not daring to make a sound. Before them, Wu Tung lay on the ground, pale and unconscious. A long narrow wound marred his chest, golden light swirling within, preventing it from healing. Lu Zhenxiong expended his spiritual qi into Wu Tung's body but could not dispel the golden light. The unique spell of the Golden Dragon Temple is indeed difficult to break. After a long time, Lu Zhenxiong had no choice but to retract his spiritual qi. Su Ming whispered, "Uncle Master, what should we do?" Lu Zhenxiong smiled bitterly, "We can only take it one step at a time. Who could have predicted that Wu Tung's own grandson would betray us?" At that moment, the sound of magic tools whooshing outside caught their attention.
Everyone tensed.
"Don't make a sound, I'll go take a look," Lu Zhenxiong said seriously. Su Ming and the others nodded solemnly. Lu Zhenxiong cast a spell to conceal his aura completely before leaving the cave. Like a wisp of wind, he drifted into the forest. Not long after departing the cave, he saw signs of battle ahead. Upon closer inspection, he found only a pool of blood. These battle marks. They must have been left by Foundation Establishment stage cultivators. The battle ended quickly. One side must have had overwhelming power. Strange, could it be a loose cultivator? Lu Zhenxiong cautiously investigated, puzzled. The misty mountains were vast, a place where many loose cultivators gathered herbs and hunted demons for spirit stones. These days, he had seen many scenes of loose cultivators being slain. It was not hard to understand. Any demonic cultivator's head was a significant achievement. But there were only so many demonic cultivators, and the merits were not enough to go around. Some righteous cultivators had devised the idea of killing innocents for merit. They used loose cultivators as substitutes for demonic cultivators to gain sect contributions. The Divine Star Sect and Golden Dragon Temple turned a blind eye to these actions. After all, in their eyes, loose cultivators had no background or foundation, killing them was inconsequential. Lu Zhenxiong did not linger and immediately left. Moments later, several figures arrived at the scene. Leading them was a middle-aged cultivator named Sun Shi, the very same Sun Shi who had previously sent He Liang to capture Chu Xuan. The young cultivator beside him was named Zhong Zhe. Both were Foundation Establishment stage cultivators from the Divine Star Sect, long renowned in their field. Accompanying them were 5 Qi refining stage disciples, all looking competent and resolute. These disciples were entirely different from those guarding the mountain's foot. Junior Brother Zhao's distress signal was sent from this location, Zhong Zhe said, looking at the bloodstain on the ground with a grim expression. "We are still too late." Sun Shi's face was also dark. Lu Zhenxiong truly is a formidable individual. Despite being injured, he managed to kill Junior Brother Zhao in such a short time. He took a deep breath. "Continue the search. Even if we have to scour every inch of these mountains, we must find these remnants of the Infinite Sect." "Yes." Zhong Zhe and the others responded solemnly. Lu Zhenxiong had just returned to the cave when he inexplicably sneezed. Strange. Foundation Establishment stage cultivators do not sneeze. Could someone be talking about me? He was utterly baffled. In another cave within the misty mountains, the original inhabitant of the cave was a lone black bear, a Qi refining stage demonic beast. Chu Xuan had courteously invited it into his 5 Viscera temple. "Not bad, I've obtained the soul of a Foundation Establishment stage cultivator and a storage bag as well. No wonder they say that murder and arson yield golden belts. Robbing and killing certainly brings quick rewards." Chu Xuan inspected the looted storage bag, clicking his tongue in wonder. Shortly after entering the misty mountains, he encountered a Foundation Establishment stage cultivator from the Divine Star Sect. Without a word, the other party had pointed at him, calling him a demonic cultivator, and attacked him with a magic tool. Helpless, Chu Xuan had no choice but to send the man to an early grave. Moreover, Adhering to the principle of resource recycling, he diligently extracted the man's soul and even threw the corpse into the corpse nurturing tower as nourishment for the corpse puppets. It was, he thought, a fitting end for the man's generous contribution. Chu Xuan infused the soul into the evil soul chain. Whether the soul was suitable for the evil soul chain required further tempering. If it couldn't endure the tempering, it would dissipate and become nourishment for the cord. Moments later, a wail echoed from the evil soul chain as the soul shattered into countless fragments. Chu Xuan shook his head helplessly. Fellow Taoist, you just don't make the cut. For the next month, Chu Xuan remained in the Misty Mountains. Every few days, he would go out to hunt Foundation Establishment stage cultivators. Of course, his main goal was to find a suitable soul for the evil soul chain. Absolutely not for their storage bags.
Yes, absolutely not.
After a month, Chu Xuan had taken down 3 Foundation Establishment stage cultivators and more than a dozen Qi refining stage cultivators. The Myriad Souls banner had grown significantly. But he still hadn't found a suitable soul. These souls, without exception, couldn't last more than 100 breaths before shattering into countless fragments, becoming nourishment for the evil soul chain. This left Chu Xuan quite frustrated. He even began to suspect the cord was doing it on purpose, as if it wanted to devour more souls. As for merit, there was no need to worry. After all, there was a difference between immortals and mortals. Once a mortal embarked on the path of cultivation, they became a cultivator, no longer a mere mortal. Slaughtering mortals would harm one's merit, but killing cultivators would not. Seems I need to kill a formidable Foundation Establishment stage cultivator. I think Sun Shi would be a good choice.
Chu Xuan nodded to himself.
He had seen Sun Shi from afar several times. However, Sun Shi was quite advanced in his cultivation, at least at the 3rd layer of the Foundation Establishment stage. To deal with such a cultivator, thorough preparation was necessary. Chu Xuan didn't want to be caught off guard. The sound of battle. At that moment, Chu Xuan's brow furrowed as he heard the sounds of an increasingly intense battle. The air was filled with the whooshing of spells and magical tools. In a flash, he appeared atop a giant tree, concealing his presence completely while observing the surroundings. Soon, he saw one person pursuing another. The one being chased was Lu Zhenxiong. He was bleeding profusely from his right arm and bore multiple wounds. The one chasing him was Sun Shi.
Sun Shi roared, Lu Zhenxiong.
You killed my junior brother Zhao. And you murdered 2 other Foundation Establishment stage cultivators from the Divine Star Sect. Stop and face your death. Ahead, Lu Zhenxiong, using his escape technique, was almost spitting blood in anger. When did I kill anyone from the Divine Star Sect?
Nonsense.
I've been hiding in a cave every day. Killing people would only expose my location. However, he couldn't be bothered to explain this to Sun Shi. He only wanted to shake off Sun Shi and hide back in the dense fog of the mountains. Reading on this site? This novel is published elsewhere. Support the author by seeking out the original. Unfortunately, his injuries were severe, and he lacked healing pills, significantly slowing his escape speed. Though he had injured Sun Shi, the latter had an ample supply of healing pills. Even though he expended his vital blood to escape, he still couldn't shake off Sun Shi. Worse, the commotion would inevitably attract other cultivators. If the monks from the Golden Dragon Temple were also drawn in, he would surely die. Up in the giant tree, Chu Xuan raised an eyebrow. Sun Shi was so focused on pursuing Lu Zhenxiong that he hadn't noticed Chu Xuan's presence. If he attacked now, it would be a thunderous strike. Even if he couldn't kill Sun Shi on the spot, he would undoubtedly deal a heavy blow. Seizing the opportunity, Chu Xuan struck just as Sun Shi sped past the giant tree. The evil soul chain shot out like lightning, aiming for Sun Shi's head. The Myriad Souls banner unfurled, and over a dozen vengeful spirits and evil ghosts pounced viciously. Sun Shi never expected a deadly ambush from the treetop. In a panic, he instinctively summoned a small silver shield to block. However, Chu Xuan's long-prepared attack was not so easily thwarted. With a clang, the silver shield dimmed and fell to the ground. The evil soul chain continued its relentless assault, striking Sun Shi's head directly. With a scream, Sun Shi plummeted to the ground. The vengeful spirits and evil ghosts swarmed him, tearing at his flesh. Long, who had been waiting for the right moment, surged forward, tearing off one of Sun Shi's legs.
Get off!
Sun Shi roared in fury, releasing 16 small swords from his sleeve. The vengeful spirits were instantly pierced through, forming gaping holes.
Clang, clang, clang.
The 16 small swords spun around Sun Shi. It was his life-bound magic tool, the Azure Cloud Divine Edge. This treasure, a set of magical tools, consisted of 16 small swords, capable of both attack and defense, advancing or retreating at will. It was the magic tool that had made Sun Shi famous. Earlier, he had used this very tool to heavily injure Lu Zhenxiong. Standing on one leg, Sun Shi coldly glared at the top of the giant tree. There, a bald cultivator hovered. He growled, "You are also a demonic cultivator." Fine, there are actually 2 Foundation Establishment stage demonic cultivators in the Misty Mountains. He urged the Azure Cloud Divine Edge, sending all 16 swords hurtling toward Chu Xuan at lightning speed. In one breath, the swords were in their original position. In the next, they were right in front of Chu Xuan. Swoosh! The Azure Cloud Divine Edge pierced the bald cultivator who had ambushed him. However, it did not feel like it had pierced flesh. Sun Shi's vision blurred, and he realized that the spot where the bald cultivator had stood was now empty. All that remained was a mass of dark purple evil aura. Sun Shi froze, sensing danger, and hurriedly tried to retract the Azure Cloud Divine Edge to defend against an attack from behind. But it was too late. The evil soul chain lashed out from behind, slicing across his neck. A head flew high into the air. Blood spurted like a fountain. Sun Shi's consciousness was swiftly consumed by darkness and cold. Chu Xuan activated his soul-extracting technique, pulling a soul from Sun Shi's body. Excellent. Chu Xuan's eyes lit up. This white soul was much more condensed and superior to the 3 he had previously acquired. It might just be suitable for the evil soul chain. Lu Zhenxiong, who had been fleeing desperately, suddenly heard Sun Shi scream. He halted and looked back. He saw a bald cultivator extracting a soul from Sun Shi's crown. The scene filled him with a sense of familiarity. This was a common practice among demonic cultivators. Moreover, the soul-extracting technique clearly belonged to the Infinite Sect. Could this be a Foundation Establishment stage disciple of the Infinite Sect? The Infinite Sect had 10 Golden Core Patriarchs, each with Foundation Establishment stage disciples. While Lu Zhenxiong didn't know all of these disciples, he recognized most of them. But this person was unfamiliar. Lu Zhenxiong did not foolishly approach immediately. Instead, he kept his distance and called out loudly, "Thank you for your help. May I know which Patriarch's disciple you are?" Chu Xuan glanced at him without responding. He did not want to be associated with the remnants of the Infinite Sect. The 5 major righteous sects of Yu Kingdom were all keenly watching the remaining demonic cultivators. The closer he got to the Infinite Sect remnants, the more likely he would be targeted. He did not want to live like a rat in the streets again. Lu Zhenxiong hurriedly continued, "Fellow Taoist, I am Lu Zhenxiong, a Foundation Establishment stage disciple under Patriarch Wan Wuying." "Fellow Taoist. My master, Patriarch Wan, is still alive. With him, there is hope for the Infinite Sect to rise again." Chu Xuan raised an eyebrow. Hadn't it been widely rumored that Wan Wuying was slain by the combined forces of 3 Golden Core cultivators from the Divine Star Sect and the Golden Dragon Temple? However, according to Lu Zhenxiong, he was still alive. Lu Zhenxiong quickly explained, "Fellow Taoist, the rumors about my master's death are false. In reality, he was captured by the Divine Star Sect and is being used as a test stone for their swords. Since this matter is quite disgraceful, the Divine Star Sect falsely claimed that my master had died." As he spoke, his expression was filled with indignation. Chu Xuan's interest was piqued. Wan Wuying being used as a test stone for swords by the Divine Star Sect. What did that mean? If Wan Wuying was indeed still alive, it would be good news. Having a Golden Core Patriarch as a backer would make all the difference. Furthermore, if Chu Xuan ever had the opportunity to break through to the Golden Core stage, he would need a Golden Core stage cultivation method and a mentor to guide him. "What do you mean by that?" Chu Xuan asked. Lu Zhenxiong replied earnestly, "This is not the place to discuss such matters. Fellow Taoist, please follow me." Chu Xuan pondered for a moment and then followed him. After a short while, the 2 arrived at a concealed cave. With a sweep of his gaze, Chu Xuan saw Su Ming, Chen Gu Weihua and Bai Feng. On the ground lay the unconscious Wu Tong. Besides them, there was no one else. It was evident that the other Qi refining stage disciples were either dead or scattered. Only these few remained with Lu Zhenxiong. Seeing a stranger enter, Su Ming and the others immediately became vigilant. After Lu Zhenxiong gave a brief explanation, they relaxed and even showed gratitude towards Chu Xuan. Thanks to this bald cultivator, Lu Zhenxiong had returned alive. Without Lu Zhenxiong leading them, they would have been easy prey, captured sooner or later. Lu Zhenxiong spoke again, "Fellow Taoist, may I ask which Patriarch's disciple you are? I recognize about 70% of the Foundation Establishment stage disciples of the Infinite Sect, but I have never seen your face before." Chu Xuan. Chu Xuan no longer concealed his identity. Lu Zhenxiong was stunned. Chu Xuan. Su Ming and the others were also taken aback upon hearing this name, Chu Xuan. Chu Xuan wiped his face, dispelling his disguise, and revealing his true appearance.
Indeed, it was that face.
It was the very face they remembered. However, the current Chu Xuan exuded a powerful aura, clearly no longer the mere qi refining stage cultivator he once was. Lu Jinxiong was utterly shocked. You've advanced to the foundation establishment stage?
When did this happen?
I remember you were still at the 9th level of qi refining not long ago. Unauthorized content usage. If you discover this narrative on Amazon, report the violation. Chu Xuan chuckled. Oh Yang Hao had a foundation establishment pill. I took it and broke through. It was a fortunate coincidence. Lu Jinxiong was stunned and clicked his tongue in amazement. To succeed in foundation establishment with just one pill. Junior brother Chu, your talent and luck are exceptional. He had now begun to address Chu Xuan as junior brother, clearly acknowledging his identity. After a moment, Lu Jinxiong couldn't help but ask, Junior brother Chu, you should be under 40 years old, right? Chu Xuan nodded. This year, I am 29. He had joined the Infinite Sect at the age of 10, serving as a servant disciple for many years, only managing to channel qi into his body at 20 and reaching the 4th level of qi refining by 28. According to the calendar of the Mystic Azure Realm, he was indeed 29 years old. Lu Jinxiong marveled, deeply impressed, to reach foundation establishment before 30. If the Infinite Sect still existed, even the nascent soul patriarchs would likely have taken you as a disciple. Qin Gu Wei Hua and Bai Feng were both excited and envious. Chu. Uncle Master Chu. Su Ming, however, had a complex expression, harboring some jealousy. Greetings, Uncle Master Chu. It had only been a little over half a month. He was still at the 5th level of qi refining. Yet, Chu Xuan had soared to the foundation establishment stage. Comparing oneself to others was indeed infuriating. He recalled that when the Infinite Sect was still around, Chu Xuan's talent was mediocre, his progress akin to a snail's pace. How had Chu Xuan's cultivation speed become so extraordinary after the sect's downfall, as if he were riding the flying sword of a golden core master? As if remembering something, Lu Jinxiong suddenly asked, when Sun Shi was chasing me, he said I had killed several of his junior brothers. Could it be? Chu Xuan did not hide anything and directly nodded. It was I who killed them. Lu Jinxiong's eyes widened, clicking his tongue in amazement. Junior brother Chu, you've recently advanced to the foundation establishment stage, yet you can firmly crush the Divine Star Sect cultivators who have long been in the foundation establishment stage. Truly impressive. Su Ming and the others were stunned, deeply impressed. Incredible. Was this really the same Chu Xuan who was at the 4th level of qi refining? Chu Xuan asked, Senior brother Lu, you mentioned earlier that Patriarch Wan has become a test stone for the Divine Star Sect swords. What does that mean? Lu Jinxiong gritted his teeth. Those hypocrites of the Divine Star Sect. You must know that the Divine Star Sect cultivates sword qi. Qi refining stage cultivators train in Heavenly Star Sword qi, Foundation Establishment stage cultivators train in Pure Star Sword qi, Golden Core stage cultivators train in True Star Sword qi, and Nascent Soul stage cultivators train in Divine Star Sword qi. The Divine Star Sect's leader has long been at the 9th layer of the Golden Core stage, but his sword qi has always been lacking, preventing a breakthrough. The best method to temper True Star Sword qi is to battle with vengeful spirits, evil entities, fierce ghosts, and corpse demons. My master has a unique constitution. His blood is a great supplement for ghostly beings. Therefore, the Divine Star Sect's leader imprisoned our patriarch within a grand formation. Periodically, they extract his blood to nourish fierce ghosts, then test their swords on these ghosts, thereby tempering their true Star Sword qi. Lu Jinxiong spoke bitterly. However, this matter is extremely disgraceful. As the leader of the 5 righteous sects, the Divine Star Sect couldn't publicly admit to it, so they falsely claimed that my master was dead. Chu Xuan sneered upon hearing this. Righteous or demonic, what's the difference? There is only the path of cultivation. As long as one can achieve their own goals, a righteous cultivator can become a demonic one, and a demonic cultivator can walk the righteous path. It all hinges on a single thought. The actions of the Divine Star Sect's leader were not much different from the so-called demonic ways, condemned by the righteous sects. Where did this information come from? Chu Xuan asked again. Lu Jinxiong pointed at Wu Tong. It was gathered by Brother Wu. He even discovered the exact location where our master is being held. It's in Misty Manor, on the northern side of the Misty Mountains. His eyes shone brightly. Junior brother Chu, let's join forces and rescue our master. With our master shielding us, it wouldn't matter if we left Tong Province or even Yu Kingdom. There will always be a place where we can reopen the Infinite Sect. Chu Xuan frowned. With just these few people, rescuing a Golden Core Patriarch seemed almost impossible. Lu Jinxiong noticed his concern and said earnestly, Wu Tong has already scouted the area. Yunwu Manor is usually guarded by only 4 Foundation Establishment stage cultivators, all of them trusted followers of Divine Star Sect's leader, Mo Huanshan.
Mo Huanshan visits only once a month.
He doesn't want to draw blood too frequently, as it would hasten our master's demise.
Chu Xuan pondered.
If this information was accurate, they could indeed attempt a rescue. How many Foundation Establishment stage cultivators do we have? Including Wu Tong, that's only 3.
Chu Xuan inquired.
3 against 4, and there will surely be defensive formations in the manor. The probability of successfully rescuing our patriarch seems quite low.
Chu Xuan was no rash man.
With a little thought, one would realize that at least 4 cultivators at the Foundation Establishment stage were needed for a successful rescue. Moreover, Wu Tong was injured and had not yet awakened. Lu Jinxiong stated solemnly, "There is another, the direct disciple of the first ancestor, at the 3rd level of Foundation Establishment."
Chu Xian's eyes flickered. Could it be?
Indeed, among all the Foundation Establishment disciples, he is the one with the finest aptitude and the most hopeful to advance to the Golden Core period. Li Xianming, senior brother Li. Chu Xuan was astonished. He is still alive? Before he had even begun Qi cultivation, Chu Xuan had heard of Li Xuanming's renown. Back then, Li Xuanming's cultivation advanced rapidly, unmatched in prominence. All 10 Golden Core elders were convinced that Li Xianming would be the next to ascend to the Golden Core period. After the fall of the Infinite Sect, Li Xianming disappeared without a trace, and many believed him to be dead. Unexpectedly, Li Xianming had managed to escape from death. Truly deserving of being the foremost among the Foundation Establishment stage in the Infinite Sect.
Lu Jinxiong nodded. Wu Tong has made contact with him.
He has concealed his identity and joined a mid-sized sect. However, to rescue his master, he is willing to act. But on the condition that the master accepts him as his principal disciple.
Chu Xuan chuckled. There were conditions, of course.
But this was to be expected. The Infinite Sect's teachings were lost, and Li Xuanming's desire to become the principal disciple of Wan Wuying and receive the true transmission was nothing out of the ordinary. Lu Jinxiong declared solemnly, "Strength in numbers, I hope junior brother Chu will join us. I, Lu Jinxiong, am asking for your help." After speaking, he knelt on both knees and bowed deeply to Chu Xuan. Chu Xuan quickly helped him up. "Senior brother Lu, I agree." Lu Jinxiong was overjoyed. "Very good. With this, the probability of a successful rescue increases significantly." Chu Xuan asked, "When do we act?" "Several Foundation Establishment stage cultivators from the Divine Star Sect have died. They might send more people. Our time is limited." Lu Jinxiong replied gravely, "As soon as Wu Tong's injuries improve, we'll make our move within 3 days at most."
Agreed, Chu Xuan nodded.
He paused, then added, "Senior brother Lu, do you have the soul refining technique and the tome of bloodworms?" The soul refining technique, a Foundation Establishment stage cultivation method, strengthens the spirit, enabling control over more corpse puppets. The bloodworms tome, also a Foundation Establishment stage technique, allows for the creation of an organ known as the bloodworm sac within the body to house goo insects. The bloodworm sac functions similarly to the corpse nurturing tower. This tale has been unlawfully lifted from Royal Road. Report any instances of this story if found elsewhere. However, while the corpse nurturing tower is specifically for nurturing corpses, the bloodworm sac is dedicated to cultivating goo insects. Moreover, once the bloodworm sac is cultivated, it enables the nurturing of a life-bound goo and increases the limit of goo insects one can control. After advancing to the Foundation Establishment stage, the might of the blood steel wire had fallen behind. Chu Xuan had long planned to cultivate his life-bound goo. But without the tome of bloodworms, he didn't know how to proceed. Lu Jinxiong nodded. "I possess both techniques. I've heard that junior brother Chu is proficient with goo insects. Are you planning to manage both goo insects and corpse puppets?" Chu Xuan nodded. "I will use every means to enhance my strength." Lu Jinxiong pulled out 2 tomes from his storage bag and handed them over. "I have transcribed these myself. They are without any errors." Chu Xuan nodded and handed over a storage bag. "What's this?" Lu Jinxiong asked, puzzled. Upon opening it, his expression turned to delighted surprise. So many blood beads. And several large blood beads too. Chu Xuan smiled. "I have nothing else but these to exchange for the soul refining technique and the tome of bloodworms. I hope senior brother Lu does not mind." Lu Jinxiong's smile was broad. "Not at all, these are quite sufficient. Blood beads, which could be used by Su Ming and the other 3 for cultivation. Large blood beads, which he could use for his own cultivation." This bag of blood beads and large blood beads perfectly addressed his urgent need for cultivation resources. In desperate times, blood beads could also serve as healing pills, although not as effective as genuine healing medicines. Upon hearing the words, blood beads, Su Ming and the others also showed a glint of thrilled surprise in their eyes. Their respect for Chu Xuan deepened. Chu Xuan pondered for a moment. I won't stay here. I will find another cave. After saying this, he left a communication jade. Senior brother Lu, use this to contact me. Alright, Lu Jinxiong watched as Chu Xuan departed, filled with deep emotions. If the Infinite Sect still existed, given time, Chu Xuan would certainly be a genius comparable to Li Xianming, alas.
Elsewhere.
Chu Xuan, after a short search, found a cave occupied by a python. The original inhabitant was courteously invited into Long's stomach. He casually swept away the foul smell of the place. Then he sat down to meditate, contemplating his next steps. Rescuing the Golden Core Elder was inherently risky. Even the most meticulous plans could fail. Therefore, he was preparing for the possibility of failure now. Beyond the Misty Mountains lies Wu Province, a place long considered the wild hinterlands, abundant in poisons and specters, previously the backyard of the Infinite Sect. Now that the Infinite Sect is no more, few sects are interested in taking over Wu Province. If there are any issues with the rescue plan, I must immediately head south, straight to Wu Province. Once within the boundaries of Wu Province, the sky is the limit, and the sea is boundless.
Chu Xuan nodded slightly.
He retrieved the Tome of Bloodworms. After a thorough examination, he quickly understood the method for crafting the bloodworm sac. The sac could be formed anywhere in the body, but beside the heart was optimal. Since goo insects crave blood, the blood near the heart is of the highest quality, and convenient for feeding. Moreover, located near the heart, the goo insects could also quickly reach every part of the body via the blood vessels, making it the fastest route. The side effects, however, were also quite apparent. Should there be a lack of blood food, the goo insects would first attack their master's heart. But for Chu Xuan, this was no issue. Having killed so many zombies, he had prepared a large number of blood beads. The bag he had given Lu Jinxiong was just one of many, he still had plenty. Additionally, the enthusiastic and hospitable cultivators of the Divine Star Sect had also been meticulously collected into the corpse nurturing tower. There was enough to feed the goo insects and corpse puppets on a daily basis. Thus, without hesitation, Chu Xuan decided to create the bloodworm sac near his heart. The process of forming the bloodworm sac was somewhat painful. After all, it involved manipulating one's own flesh to form an organ near the heart that did not previously exist. To say it was painless would be a lie. It took Chu Xuan 3 full hours to form a rudimentary bloodworm sac. Now, it only needed to be reinforced. Reinforcement did not require Chu Xuan to expend any mental energy, so while he worked on this, he also took out a storage bag he had previously captured to inventory. At that moment, the blood steel wire suddenly emerged from his palm, its head pointing toward one of the storage bags. This was Sun Shi's storage bag. What have you sensed? Chu Xuan was puzzled and immediately began to remove the items from the storage bag. The blood steel wire hovered for a moment, finally stopping in front of a piece of amber. At first glance, the amber seemed ordinary. But upon closer inspection by Chu Xuan, it actually encapsulated a drop of blood. He asked, "You want it?" Blood steel wire nodded its tiny head eagerly.
Chu Xuan looked surprised.
He suddenly recalled the content from the Tome of Bloodworms. Blood steel wire was a descendant of the ancient exotic insect, swallowing gold blood mother. If it consumed such blood, there was a chance it could revert to its ancestral form. Even if it didn't fully revert, its strength would increase substantially. Could the blood within this amber be that of the swallowing gold blood mother?
No, that can't be right.
Sun Shi is merely a foundation establishment stage cultivator. How could he obtain the blood of an ancient exotic insect? This must be the blood of another powerful goo insect, yet somehow related to the swallowing gold blood mother. It's likely from another descendant, such as the flying blood locust or the mountain steel beetle. However, since blood steel wire desires it, let's allow it to consume and see. There's certainly no harm in trying. Chu Xuan sliced open the amber. Before he could even command it, blood steel wire pounced forward, swiftly devouring the dark red blood. After the feast, blood steel wire immediately became sluggish. It leisurely returned to Chu Xuan's body, burrowed into the bloodworm sac, and curled up. Then, to Chu Xuan's astonishment, it began to spin a cocoon. He could distinctly feel the aura of blood steel wire strengthening rapidly. Is it beginning its second transformation?
Chu Xuan was amazed.
He calmed his excited emotions and began to cultivate the soul refining technique. The soul refining technique was divided into 3 levels, and although it did not involve spells, it could enhance the soul by up to 30%. An enhancement of 30% was still significant, better than nothing. If he found a better technique in the future, he would certainly switch.
3 days later,
Chu Xuan suddenly sensed something unusual in the bloodworm sac. He quickly looked within and saw the cocoon of blood steel wire cracking, its aura suddenly breaking through a bottleneck. Chu Xuan was delighted. When he looked at blood steel wire again, its appearance had not changed much, but its length, hardness and thickness had all increased significantly. Although it had not reverted to its ancestral form, its strength had increased dramatically. It's now at the early stages of the second transformation, comparable to a foundation establishment stage cultivator. If it becomes a life-bound goo, its power would increase even further, but there's no time left. Chu Xuan was greatly pleased. With blood steel wire advancing to the second transformation of a goo, he had gained another method to fend off enemies. I've never given you a name before, now I'll give you a splendid one. From now on, you shall be known as Gongxi. Chu Xuan was very pleased with the name he had chosen. It was incredibly creative. Blood steel wire nodded obediently. It didn't understand, nor dared to comment. Gongxi it is then. Could it even ask for a change? What about your innate spell? Chu Xuan carefully sensed around. Gongxi, understanding his intention, immediately moved near Chu Xuan's heart. It opened its mouth and gently bit on the surface of the heart. It seemed as though something had been injected into the heart. Stolen content alert. This content belongs on Royal Road. Report any occurrences. Chu Xuan raised an eyebrow. He immediately noticed that the blood flow within his body had quickened. In the blink of an eye, it felt as though his blood was about to boil. Moved by a thought, Chu Xuan swiftly made a cut on the palm of his hand. The wound barely appeared before it began healing rapidly. Within a few breaths, the blood scab fell off, and the skin was as good as new. Chu Xuan was mildly surprised. Boiling blood technique. This was certainly a top-tier spell. This technique could increase the host's blood flow speed and accelerate wound healing. The physical quality of the flesh would significantly improve. Good, good, good. Chu Xuan repeated the word good thrice, delighted in his heart. With this, he had gained another method. Just then, his storage bag suddenly vibrated. Chu Xuan took out the communication jade. Lu Zhenxiong's voice immediately came through. Junior brother Chu, Wu Tong is no longer in serious danger. Senior brother Li is waiting for us at the foot of the mountain. It's time to depart. Chu Xuan responded promptly, good, I'm on my way. He returned to the cave they had used before. He found only Lu Zhenxiong and Wu Tong present. As for Su Ming and the other Qi refining stage disciples, they had all disappeared. Lu Zhenxiong noticed his confusion and smiled. With senior brother Li's help, I've already moved Su Ming and the others to a safe location. Chu Xuan nodded in understanding. Wu Tong looked at Chu Xuan, remarking with emotion, I never imagined you would become a foundation establishment stage cultivator so quickly. Lu Zhenxiong laughed heartily. Not just you, I didn't expect it either. Let's go, both of you. We're setting off. The three left the cave and hurried down the mountain. Before long, they saw a figure at the foot of the mountain. The figure, dressed in flowing white robes with an aura of immortality, had his back to them, a perfect embodiment of a disciple from a righteous sect.
Here you come.
The person sensed their approach and turned around. Chu Xuan got a clear view of the man's face. With eyebrows shaped like swords and a remarkably handsome appearance, he looked every bit a disciple of a leading righteous sect like the Divine Star Sect, rather than a sinister disciple from the Infinite Sect. In fact, Li Xianming had indeed been contested between the Divine Star Sect and the Infinite Sect in the past. It was only after the Infinite Sect paid a tremendous price that they were able to include Li Xianming in their ranks. Greetings, senior brother Li. Chu Xuan, Lu Zhenxiong, and Wu Tong all bowed their hands in salute. In the path of cultivation, strength was respected. Li Xuanming's level was higher than theirs, rightfully earning him the title of senior brother. Li Xuanming's gaze swept over Lu Zhenxiong and Wu Tong, finally resting on Chu Xuan. He nodded slightly. Not bad. Managing to advance to foundation establishment under such circumstances is no small feat. If it were in the past, I would have recommended my master to take junior brother Chu as a disciple. The master he referred to was the first ancestor of the Infinite Sect, the strongest among them. However, he had perished long ago. Li Xianming continued, Junior brother Chu, being newly initiated into foundation establishment, your strength is insufficient. You shall stay on the periphery and keep watch. Chu Xuan chuckled lightly and nodded in agreement. Since someone capable was willing to handle the rescue operation, and they preferred him to keep watch outside, it was more than suitable. He did not wish to reveal his strength unnecessarily either. The news of Sun Shi and the others' demise must have already reached the Divine Star Sect. We should not delay any longer. Let us depart now and head straight for Misty Manor. With a light kick off the ground, Li Xuanming's body shot out like white lightning, quickly leading the way. Chu Xuan and the others followed closely behind Li Xianming. An hour later, the four arrived at the northern part of the Misty Mountains. The terrain here was relatively flat. Nestled among green mountains and clear waters was a manor, Misty Manor. At first glance, Misty Manor appeared to be just an ordinary manor. However, it was enveloped by a protective array, concealing deadly traps. Anyone daring to intrude would provoke a lethal response from the cultivators of the Divine Star Sect. Lu Jinxiong and Wu Tong both looked toward Li Xianming. Senior Brother Li, what should we do? Li Xianming spoke calmly. I have already investigated the 4 Foundation Establishment stage cultivators stationed here. The strongest is at the 3rd level of Foundation Establishment, and the weakest has only recently achieved Foundation Establishment. 2 of them will be handled by me, the other 2 are yours. Junior Brother Chu, your task is to quickly locate the focal points of the array and destroy them, and assist us when the opportunity arises. Li Xianming tossed an object to him. It was a mirror. This treasure is called the Array Breaking Mirror. It doesn't have much offensive or defensive capability, but it can identify many of the focal points of arrays. Chu Xuan nodded and accepted it. Li Xianming had everything planned out. It seemed there wasn't much left for him to do. Chu Xuan channeled spiritual qi into the array breaking mirror and soon spotted numerous invisible threads that did not exist to the naked eye. These threads guided him to the locations of the array flags. Even if he could not find the focal points directly, destroying these flags would weaken the protective array covering Misty Manor. Given Chu Xuan's expertise in arrays, finding the focal points was only a matter of time. Shortly after, he located the first array flag embedded within a stone pillar, invisible from the outside. Without needing Chu Xuan's command, Long emerged from the corpse nurturing tower, growling lowly before fiercely striking the surface of the pillar. With 1 palm strike, the pillar cracked. With 2, it completely shattered, revealing the array flag hidden within. Chu Xuan extracted the flag, infused it with spiritual qi, and instantly shattered it. As expected, the array shrouding Misty Manor weakened considerably. Meanwhile, sounds of battle emanated from within the estate. Clearly, Li Xianming and his 2 companions had engaged the 4 Divine Star Sect cultivators defending the estate. Chu Xuan chose not to join the fray, instead swiftly removing array flags around Misty Manor. Thanks to his solid foundation in array techniques and the aid of the array breaking mirror, he removed and destroyed over 120 array flags in just half an hour, completely dissipating the array above Misty Manor. The pressure on Li Xianming and the others significantly lessened.
Excellent.
Faster than I anticipated. Li Xianming laughed heartily, his fingers jabbing fiercely. His sinister finger strength tore through the air, enveloping his opponents like a torrential downpour, leaving them gasping for breath. A scream rang out as one opponent's shoulder was penetrated by the finger strike, blood spurting uncontrollably. Li Xianming relentlessly pressed forward, his finger strikes piercing through the air in rapid succession. His final strike pierced directly through the heart, killing his opponent instantly. Lu Jinxiong and Wu Tong also began to gain the upper hand in their fights. Everything seemed to be falling into place.
Master Hui Kong.
The array is broken. If you do not intervene, we will all die, shouted one of the Divine Star Sect cultivators toward the estate, veins bulging on his forehead in anger and frustration over the inaction of their hidden ally. Li Xianming and his companions exchanged looks of confusion and uncertainty.
Hui Kong?
Had a monk from the Golden Dragon Temple also arrived? From within a room in the estate, an indignant voice soon responded.
Idiocy.
I was choosing an opportune moment to strike, but you've revealed it. The next moment, a Kakara saber cleaved through the wall, hurtling towards Wu Tong with a flash of blinding golden light and a sharp aura that made one's hair stand on end. Wu Tong cursed silently and dodged urgently. The Kakara just grazed past his skull, shearing off a tuft of his black hair. Wu Tong felt his head, realizing he now had a bald spot. Humph, quite the dodger, came a cold sneer. With a loud thud, a tall and burly figure leaped out from the chamber, entering everyone's line of sight. The figure stood over 8 feet tall, broad-shouldered and robust, dressed in ochre-colored monk's robes, with bands wrapped around his wrists and ankles. The Kakara, having completed a full circle, returned to his palm. This tail has been unlawfully lifted from Royal Road. If you spot it on Amazon, please report it. Golden Dragon Temple, Battle Monk Hui Kong. Lu Zhenxiong's expression shifted slightly. Chu Xuan, perched on the rooftop, thoughtfully observed the situation inside the estate. Monks from the Golden Dragon Temple were divided into 2 types, battle monks and scripture monks. Battle monks trained in combat from a young age, specializing in vanquishing demons and evil spirits, often traveling to different places to perform exorcisms. The Infinite Sect disciples had their fair share of clashes with these battle monks. Scripture monks, on the other hand, devoted themselves to studying Buddhist scriptures within the temple. Initially, their combat prowess was far inferior to that of the battle monks. However, upon reaching a deep understanding of Buddhist teachings, their power could surge dramatically. This was what they meant by the words become the law, referring to scripture monks. Chu Xuan had heard of Huikong before, a prodigy ranked alongside Li Xianming. Blessed with extraordinary talent, Huikong had reached the foundation establishment stage at the age of 30 and was highly regarded by the many golden core monks of the Golden Dragon Temple. Li Xianming had faced Huikong several times, more often losing than winning. Li Xianming, benefactor Li, ha ha ha, we meet again. Huikong stared at Li Xianming, his sinister laugh suggesting he saw a worthy adversary. Li Xuanming's expression darkened. He had previously investigated the situation at Misty Manor, which was supposed to be guarded by only 4 people. Misty Manor used Wan Wuying's blood to nourish evil spirits, which then honed the sword qi, hardly a noble endeavor, not widely known. Why would Huikong be here? Could the Golden Dragon Temple be involved too? Li Xianming shouted, Huikong. Your Golden Dragon Temple claims to uphold the purest Buddhist doctrines, showing compassion for all beings. And yet, you stoop to collude with the Divine Star Sect, engaging in such evil as imprisoning cultivators and feeding them to ghosts. Huikong laughed derisively, nonsense, I am here only to exterminate evil ghosts. I know nothing of imprisoning cultivators or feeding them to ghosts. It seems you demons of the Infinite Sect have truly walked into a trap. With that, Huikong stamped on the ground, causing it to tremble violently. The hard flagstones cracked under the force. In an instant, Li Xianming, Lu Jinxiong, Wu Tong, and the 4 Divine Star Sect cultivators struggled to maintain their balance. Earthquake technique. Chu Xuan immediately recognized this signature spell from the Golden Dragon Temple. The battle monks of the temple were renowned for their indomitable courage and strength. The earthquake technique could harm both enemies and allies alike, yet the battle monks could navigate the trembling ground as if walking on flat land. It's time to deliver you all. Huikong sneered, slashing his kakura again towards Lu Jinxiong. His upper robe suddenly flew out like a spider lunging at Wu Tong. At the same time, he clasped his hands, and a string of prayer beads around his neck flew out, aiming straight for Li Xuanming's head. In an instant, he was manipulating 3 magical tools at once, attacking Li Xianming and his companions simultaneously. Moreover, judging by the radiance of the magical tools, both the kakura and the prayer beads were high-grade magical tools. The robe was of a slightly lower grade but was still a powerful mid-grade magical tool. Damn it! Li Xianming cursed under his breath as he dodged swiftly. His strength was sufficient for him to evade the onslaught of prayer beads just in time. Lu Jinxiong was slower to react. His arm was grazed by the kakura, and a large chunk of flesh was torn away, blood gushing out immediately. He grunted in pain and retreated, enduring the agony. Wu Tong was less fortunate. His injuries had barely healed, and the sudden movement aggravated his chest wound. In the blink of an eye, he was enveloped by the attacking robe, which constricted around him like a massive python. Within moments, his face turned red from suffocation, nearly on the verge of death. Huikong laughed heartily, how weak. Has the Infinite Sect's demonic cultivation really degenerated to this extent? Lu Jinxiong clenched his fists. Huikong was cunning indeed. He had allowed the 4 Divine Star Sect cultivators to deplete their substantial spiritual qi, observing all their techniques. Now, his intervention was sure to be decisive. Retreat. Li Xianming gritted his teeth and threw out a black flag, signaling a retreat. The sudden appearance of Huikong had completely disrupted their plans. Any further delay would inevitably result in reinforcements from the Divine Star Sect and the Golden Dragon Temple. By then, escape would be impossible. The black flag hit the ground, and thousands of ghosts surged out, swarming toward Huikong and his group. This was also a high-grade magical tool and one of Li Xuanming's trump cards. The robe entangling Wu Tong was assaulted by numerous ghosts, dimming significantly and forcing it to release Wu Tong and retreat to Huikong's side. The 3 Divine Star Sect cultivators also hurriedly used various means to dodge the ghosts. However, Huikong stood motionless, utterly unfazed. He grinned bizarrely, leaving? Did you ask the monk's permission? Huikong roared lowly, his muscles bulging impressively. From his body, hidden golden dragon patterns erupted, soaring into the sky above Misty Manor. Their resonant cries shook the heavens and earth, creating a formidable aura. The tens of thousands of ghosts that surged from the black flag hadn't even approached Huikong before they were torn apart by these golden dragon patterns. The weaker ghosts couldn't even withstand the radiance emitted by the dragon patterns and were instantly reduced to ashes. A torrent of golden light showered down, completely enveloping Misty Manor. Li Xianming, Lu Jinxiong, and Wu Tong immediately felt their circulation of blood and spiritual qi obstructed, as if the golden light was suffocating them. Chu Xuan, lying on the rooftop, also felt his cultivation of the blood evil demon refining scripture significantly slowed. Wu Tong was both shocked and enraged, unaware of the nature of this technique. Li Xianming, having had previous encounters with the Golden Dragon Temple, recognized the technique instantly. Suppression evil rune? You've actually cultivated this move, he exclaimed in disbelief. Upon hearing these words, Lu Jinxiong and Wu Tong's expressions drastically changed as well. The cultivation techniques and spells practiced by the Golden Dragon Temple were almost all designed to suppress evil spirits. Demonic cultivators always suffered when facing the temple's monks. The suppression evil rune was a technique from the secret scripture of the temple, the secret pattern scripture, known for its difficulty to master but immense power once perfected. It could even combat enemies across 1 or 2 higher cultivation levels. Even within the Golden Dragon Temple, the number of monks who had mastered this pattern could be counted on one hand. And Hui Kong had managed to master it. No wonder he was bold enough to face 3 opponents alone and confidently proclaim that none would escape. He had such a formidable technique to rely on.
Buzz.
The golden light blasted against the black flag. The flag cried out in distress, its light dimming, showing cracks on its surface. Li Xianming spat out a mouthful of fresh blood and had no choice but to retract the flag. He was profoundly shocked. This flag, his lifebound magical tool, the Black Wind Flag, contained tens of thousands of ghosts. Yet, it couldn't withstand a single strike. Now, even his lifebound magical tool was severely damaged. What else could possibly contend with Hui Kong? Hui Kong laughed wildly, confident of his victory. Use all your lifebound magical tools and your various methods. Li Xianming gritted his teeth. Both of you, we must go all out now. It's our only chance. Lu Jinxiong and Wu Tong nodded solemnly. Lu Jinxiong took out the corpse nurturing tower, pointed at it, and a beam of black light shot out, releasing one of the corpse puppets he had been meticulously cultivating for years. Hui Kong glanced at it and scoffed. I thought it was something formidable. If it were a 3rd-level corpse general, I might have taken a longer look, but it's just 2nd level. This content has been unlawfully taken from Royal Road. Report any instances of this story if found elsewhere. Wu Tong slapped his shoulder fiercely, and a large fat insect burrowed out. Its rear end faced outward and suddenly began firing. The thumb-sized eggs it shot out hatched rapidly before hitting the ground, forming thousands of small, transparent insects that swarmed around Wu Tong in the blink of an eye. Hui Kong swept his gaze over them and laughed again. Brain-eating insects? Is this your trump card? Li Xianming growled, and mine. He violently threw a black pearl into the air. It exploded mid-air, releasing a surge of black light that quickly enveloped Misty Manor. A wave of evil chi spread rapidly, battling against the golden light. The intermingling of the black and golden lights wrested back some space, relieving Li Xianming and his companions from the oppressive golden light that slowed their cultivation techniques. Evil black pearl? Not bad bringing out such treasures. Hui Kong laughed heartily. But do you really think that's all there is to my suppression evil rune? At that, the expressions of Li Xianming and his companions changed. In the next instant, the golden dragon patterns in the air burst into even more intense golden light. The environment barely held together by the evil black pearl was shredded instantly. Lu Zhenxiong's 2nd-level corpse general, just as it charged forward, started howling in pain under the intense golden light, smoke billowing from its body. The 3 Divine Star Sect cultivators, now somewhat recovered, immediately moved in, encircling the corpse puppet. Despite its toughness, the corpse puppet could only withstand so much against 3 Foundation Establishment stage cultivators. As for the brain-eating insects, although unaffected by the suppression evil rune's golden light, they couldn't get close to Hui Kong. The ground began to pile up with their corpses, yet no wounds appeared on Hui Kong.
Weak, so weak.
Hui Kong continued to laugh derisively, swinging his kakara to bisect swarms of the brain-eating insects in midair. In the next moment, he suddenly controlled his kakara to slash towards Wu Tong. Caught off guard, Wu Tong barely managed to dodge his head, but his right arm was severed cleanly at the shoulder by the blade of light. As Wu Tong's right arm fell, so too did the mother brain-eating insect atop it, severed into 2 pieces, its fluid splashing everywhere. This mother insect was Wu Tong's life-bound goo. With its death, Wu Tong immediately suffered a backlash, his mind feeling as though it had been smashed by a hammer, leaving him in a dazed state. He collapsed to the ground, eyes wide open, unable to utter a word.
Die!
Hui Kong bellowed as he raised his kakara for another strike. Li Xianming and Lu Jinxiong were too engaged to come to Wu Tong's aid, and could only watch helplessly as the blade descended. However, just at that moment, a surge of evil chi flashed, and a chain whipped fiercely towards Hui Kong's back. Hui Kong sensed the threat of death and his face paled. Abandoning the downward stroke of his kakara, He conjured a golden bowl in front of him. The evil soul chain struck the bowl, leaving deep cracks on the bowl's surface before sending it flying. The chain's momentum unabated, it struck Huikong directly in the chest. A crack sounded as a long narrow wound opened from his left shoulder to his right waist, blood flowing freely. Even more critically, the golden dragon patterns on Huikong's body, which had been protecting him, were disrupted by the strike. The golden light enveloping Misty Manor weakened significantly. Huikong, his face a mask of shock, quickly retreated, casting his gaze toward the attacker. Li Xianming and Lu Zhenxiong also turned startled, and saw that it was Chu Xuan.
Chu Xuan.
Lu Zhenxiong exclaimed in surprise. He had thought Chu Xuan was only watching from afar. Given the sudden appearance of Huikong and the dire situation, Lu had assumed that Chu Xuan might have fled. Instead, Chu Xuan had not only appeared but had also landed a precise strike on Huikong, reducing the power of the suppression evil rune. A flicker of realization passed through Li Xuanming's eyes. The suppression evil rune was indeed powerful, but because it was inscribed on the body, it was vulnerable to close combat. Any damage to the skin could obscure or break the rune patterns, significantly diminishing their power. Li Xianming had known this weakness but had been unable to get close enough to Huikong once the rune was activated. Chu Xuan, who presumably had never encountered the suppression evil rune, seemed unexpectedly aware of this vulnerability.
How had he known?
Chu Xuan watched Huikong, whose face was a mix of shock and anger, and his own expression was as calm as still water. Had he been observing from the rooftop all this time for nothing? He had already noticed that every time Huikong activated the suppression evil rune, the patterns on his body would light up briefly. Clearly, damaging these patterns would greatly reduce the rune's power or even neutralize it entirely. Even if he didn't know the exact method to break the rune, he could deduce as much just by observing. "What are you, boy?" Huikong snarled, glaring at Chu Xuan menacingly. Without a word, Chu Xuan suddenly lunged forward, spiritual qi bursting from the palm of his right hand, forming the semblance of a gigantic spectral claw. Huikong, having clashed with Infinite Sect cultivators multiple times, recognized the spell instantly.
"An evil demon claw?
Ridiculous, you think such a trash spell could harm me?" he scoffed, stomping the ground and drifting backward. He beckoned his kakara back to his side, preparing to strike at Chu Xuan. Li Xianming and Lu Zhenxiong, both Foundation Establishment stage cultivators themselves, were also familiar with the An Evil Demon Claw. It was a spell that was neither particularly strong nor particularly weak. If powered only by spiritual qi, it could indeed be considered quite feeble. Moreover, An Evil territories were now dominated by the righteous 5 sects. Where would ordinary demonic cultivators even acquire An Evil qi? Without An Evil qi to power it, the An Evil Demon Claw was no different from any other Foundation Establishment stage spell. "It's too slow, he won't even touch Huikong's clothes," Li Xianming thought with a sigh. The 3 Divine Star Sect cultivators looked at Chu Xuan with scorn. Using An Evil Demon Claw in this day and age seemed outdated to them. Seeing them approach, Huikong waved them off with a commanding gesture. "Stay back, let me handle this demon spawn myself." He was still smarting from the sneak attack that had injured him and wanted to wash away this disgrace with his own hands. He was eager to split the head of this unknown cultivator with his kakara. At that moment, Chu Xuan suddenly slapped his sleeve, and astonishingly, An Evil Qi surged from within it. The An Evil Demon Claw had barely begun to form a moment ago, and in the next instant, it was fully manifested. Covering dozens of zhongs in a flash, the claw grabbed Huikong. Huikong's eyes widened in utter astonishment. The claw of An Evil suddenly tightened its grip. He instantly felt every bone in his body crackling and popping. The bones in his arms were crushed to pieces at that moment. "Ah!" Huikong screamed in agony. His scream momentarily stunned Li Xianming, Lu Zhenxiong, and 3 cultivators from the Divine Star Sect. How had the situation reversed so completely in the blink of an eye? Why had Huikong been captured by the claw of An Evil?
Impossible. Could it be?
Li Xuanming's gaze shifted, noticing the residue of An Evil on Chu Xuan's sleeve.
He understood.
The narrative has been illicitly obtained. Should you discover it on Amazon, report the violation. Junior brother Chu initially formed the claw of An Evil with spiritual qi, leading Huikong into complacency. Once Huikong relaxed, he immediately infused it with An Evil qi, instantaneously materializing the formidable claw. "This An Evil qi is extremely pure, making the claw tremendously powerful," Li Xianming murmured. Lu Zhenxiong listened, his face a mask of surprise.
An Evil qi.
Where had Chu Xuan acquired such pure An Evil qi? Chu Xuan, watching Huikong controlled by the claw, once again activated the evil soul chain, pulling fiercely, aimed straight at Huikong's head.
"Damn it! I will tear you apart." Vajra beads.
The pain drove Huikong to fury. He even abandoned his usual moniker of this monk. With a roar, the rosary beads flew towards Chu Xuan. Mid-air, the string threading the beads snapped. 72 beads, each the size of a thumb, hurtled toward Chu Xuan like cannonballs. Chu Xuan gestured, and the goldenwood shield materialized beside him. Clang, clang, clang. The beads hammered on the shield, creating a sound of metal striking metal. The shield began to deform but did not shatter immediately. Only a high-grade defensive magical tool could withstand such a powerful attack. High-grade magical tool. Lu Zhenxiong's eyes widened. Chu Xuan had only recently advanced to the foundation establishment stage. How had he obtained such a high-grade defensive magical tool? Crack! The evil soul chain viciously snapped towards Huikong's head. Huikong's pupils dilated in shock. He cried out, "Vajra cassock!" The cassock he had used to attack Wu Tung flew in, positioning itself above Huikong's head. Crack! This mid-grade magical tool was instantly severed by the evil soul chain. It was as fragile as tissue paper. Such a powerful magical tool. It seems to be the life-bound magical tool crafted by junior brother Chu. Lu Zhenxiong exclaimed, his face filled with awe.
Save me!
Save me now!
Huikong cried out in terror.
He had not anticipated that even the top-grade magical tool, the Vajra beads, could not fend off this young adversary. The mid-grade magical tool, the Vajra cassock, shattered instantly under a single blow. If his head were to be struck squarely, he would be gravely injured, if not killed outright. The three cultivators from the Divine Star sect immediately surrounded Chu Xuan from three directions.
Your opponents are us.
Li Xianming sneered coldly, and with Lu Zhenxiong flanking him on either side, they blocked the trio's path. Despite Li Xuanming's depleted spiritual qi, injuries from the life-bound magical tool, and wounds inflicted by Huikong, he remained a prodigy of the Infinite Sect. Even now, facing two adversaries was well within his capabilities. Huikong, witnessing this scene, was beside himself with rage. His pupils dilated in utter despair, forced to watch helplessly as the evil soul chain lashed down. "You dare kill me, my master!" He cursed in terror, but even his threat was cut short. With a snap, the soul chain bisected Huikong's head. Blood and brain matter splattered everywhere. Chu Xuan reached out, extracting the soul from Huikong's body with a swift motion, and tossed it into the evil soul chain. Inside the evil soul chain already was the soul of Sun Shi, still adjusting. Huikong's soul, evidently stronger, joined it. Between them, a struggle ensued. The survivor would earn the right to become the evil soul chain's spirit. Huikong's death was nothing short of catastrophic for the three Divine Star sect cultivators. For Li Xianming and Lu Zhenxiong, however, it significantly boosted their morale. In less than 100 breaths' time, the three Divine Star sect cultivators were successively slain by Chu Xuan, along with Li Xianming and Lu Zhenxiong. The trio panted heavily, though with differing needs. Li Xianming and Lu Zhenxiong genuinely needed to catch their breath, while Chu Xuan merely pretended. His life-bound worm had not yet been deployed in his battle with Huikong, so he had not played his last card or exhausted his strength. Yet, he needed to feign weariness, otherwise, he might appear too formidable. Lu Zhenxiong exclaimed excitedly, "Junior brother Chu, you're far beyond a mere newly advanced foundation establishment stage. You must be at least at the second tier already, aren't you?" Li Xianming looked at Chu Xuan with a mix of emotions. "Junior brother Chu, you've hidden your strength well." Chu Xuan merely smiled. "When traveling abroad, one keeps some strength hidden, no offense, senior brother Li." Li Xianming nodded, understandingly. Taking a deep breath, he solemnly said, "The obstacle is removed. Let us hasten to rescue the ancestor." Agreed, both Chu Xuan and Lu Zhenxiong responded gravely. Lu Zhenxiong helped Wu Tung to his feet. The four of them entered the villa together. Shortly thereafter, Li Xianming discovered a hidden door leading to the underground of the villa. They proceeded downwards. Eventually, they arrived in the vast underground palace beneath the villa. The entire place was paved with pitch-black rocks. The air was thick with an ominous and demonic aura. Orthodox cultivators would undoubtedly feel uneasy here. However, for a demonic cultivator like Chu Xuan, it felt as though he was in a blessed paradise. In the center of the underground palace, a figure sat withered. His body was shriveled and emaciated. At first glance, he looked almost like a skeleton. It was quite unsettling. The footsteps of Chu Xuan and his companions echoed through the chamber. The aged figure showed no reaction. After a long pause, he spoke without lifting his head. "Again? How much blood do you plan to drain this time?" Lu Zhenxiong exclaimed excitedly, "Master! It's me, Zhenxiong." The aged figure started, then suddenly looked up. He saw Lu Zhenxiong, and beside him, Chu Xuan, Li Xianming and Wu Tung. It was only then that Chu Xuan could see Wan Wuying's face. This once vigorous golden core ancestor now resembled a skeleton. His eye sockets were deep, his cheekbones pronounced. He had been tormented by the Divine Star Sect for far too long.
Zhenxiong.
Wan Wuying's eyes widened, his expression one of shock. Chu Xuan, Li Xianming and Wu Tong all bowed. Disciples of the Infinite Sect, we greet Elder Ancestor. Wan Wuying was momentarily stunned, then burst into laughter. Heaven indeed does not forsake us. I never imagined that I, Wan Wuying, would see the day I could leave this place alive.
Very well.
You are all worthy sons of the Infinite Sect. Lu Zhenxiong declared solemnly, Master, we will activate the formation now and rescue you. The flags of the formation were all exposed. It was designed to be impervious only from the outside. Presumably, Mo Huanshan, the leader of the Divine Star Sect, never anticipated that someone would find Misty Manor, break the external formation, and kill the guarding cultivators. Finally, they stood before Wan Wuying. Quickly, the four men removed the formation flags one by one. Lu Zhenxiong rushed forward to support Wan Wuying. Li Xianming took out a bottle of healing pills and offered it with both hands. Elder Ancestor, your recovery is what matters most. Chu Xuan also presented a bag of large blood pearls. Wan Wuying was delighted and swallowed the pills and blood pearls whole. His gaunt, withered body began to recover at a visibly fast rate. Like a balloon being inflated, in the blink of an eye, Wan Wuying's face was no longer hollow and creepy. He regained some of the majestic presence of a golden core cultivator. Very good, very good. I recognize you, you are Li Xianming, the last disciple personally taught by the first ancestor. He always boasted to me about you, saying you possess the potential of a golden core. Today, upon seeing you, it is clear your talents and strengths are exceptional, and your disposition and character are also of the highest quality. If you spot this narrative on Amazon, know that it has been stolen. Report the violation. Wan Wuying laughed heartily. He gently patted Li Xianming on the shoulder, his approval evident. I'm now free from my confinement, and Mo Huanshan will surely be aware. We must not delay, let us leave immediately. We can talk more on the way. Wan Wuying spoke gravely. Yes, responded Chu Xuan and his companions in a somber tone. Where shall we go, master? Do you already have a destination in mind? Lu Zhenxiong asked, puzzled. Wan Wuying gave a mysterious smile. I've long decided our destination, but it was on the way that we were surrounded by cultivators from the Divine Star Sect and the Golden Dragon Temple. Follow me. Wan Wuying returned to the surface. Immediately enveloping Chu Xuan and the others with his spiritual qi, he flew towards the south. As they passed the Misty Mountains, he also took Su Ming and a few others along. Wan Wuying, a golden core stage cultivator, normally wields a magic treasure, whose power far exceeds those of magic tools used by qi refining and foundation establishment stage cultivators. However, Wan Wuying's magical treasures had been taken. Now, he could only traverse the skies by the sheer force of his golden core stage powers. Nevertheless, even flying unaided by any tools and while carrying several cultivators, his speed remained swift. In the blink of an eye, they had crossed the Misty Mountains and reached the borders of Wu Province. After arriving in Wu Province, Wan Wuying continued south without pause. Only when he spotted a mortal city in the distance did he stop. He found a valley rich in spiritual qi nearby and settled down. Let us rest here for now. After instructing his disciples, Wan Wuying immediately sat down to meditate, absorbing the spiritual qi of heaven and earth. Chu Xuan knew only that Wu Province was south of Tong Province, but he was unfamiliar with the specific conditions of Wu Province. For now, following Wan Wuying was his only option. However, with Wan Wuying, a golden core ancestor, to protect them, they could certainly feel much more at ease. Chu Xuan cautiously circled the valley, setting up formations at every entrance and exit. This way, if anyone approached the valley, he would know immediately. When he returned to Wan Wuying's side, he found that Wan Wuying had already awakened and was talking with Lu Zhenxiong, Li Xianming, and Wu Tong. Xianming, during these days, there was also that little bald monk from the Golden Dragon Temple here, using fierce ghosts to temper his magic tools. That little monk was no ordinary opponent and even possessed evil-suppressing runes. How did you manage to defeat him? With a moment to spare, Wan Wuying looked at Li Xianming with a hint of curiosity and asked. Li Xianming gave an awkward smile and turned to Chu Xuan, who had just returned. To be truthful, elder ancestor, it was not I who overcame Huikong, it was junior brother Chu. Lu Zhenxiong spoke respectfully. Master, the monk's name is Huikong. He was exceedingly cunning, only appearing when our spiritual qi was nearly depleted. The three of us could not defeat Huikong and nearly perished. It was junior brother Chu who bided his time and with a thunderous strike, gained the upper hand and ultimately slew him. Wu Tong also bowed, elder ancestor, that Hui Kong was incredibly powerful, and nearly succeeded in killing me. Had it not been for junior brother Chu's decisive strike, I would have died, and our rescue mission would have likely failed. Wan Wuying's gaze fell upon the youngest, Chu Xuan, filled with astonishment. Li Xianming, he had met before. Lu Zhenxiong, a disciple he had nurtured for many years. Wu Tong, he recognized as an early-placed spy of the Infinite Sect. But this young man was a stranger to him.
Could he have really killed Hui Kong?
Chu Xuan bowed respectfully. Disciple Chu Xuan of the Infinite Sect greets the elder ancestor.
Chu Xuan.
Wan Wuying mulled over the name, unable to recall any memory of him. Lu Zhenxiong explained, Master, when our sect was destroyed, junior brother Chu was still at the qi refining stage. He has only risen to prominence after the fall, advancing to the foundation establishment stage. Wan Wuying was puzzled, but at the time of the sect's fall, Chu Xuan, you must have been at least at the 8th or 9th level of qi refining. Among the disciples at that level, I do not recall seeing you. Chu Xuan replied respectfully, at that time, I was only at the 4th level of qi refining. After the sect was destroyed, it seemed as though I had an epiphany, and my cultivation progressed by leaps and bounds. Moreover, I had some luck, acquiring numerous blood pearls and large blood pearls. It was only recently that I advanced to the foundation establishment stage.
Wan Wuying listened, amazed.
In just a few years, to surge from the 4th level of qi refining to the foundation establishment stage was no small feat. Li Xianming and the others had also personally confirmed that Chu Xuan was the one who had dealt with the monk from the Golden Dragon Temple. Had it not been for Chu Xuan's intervention, the mission to rescue him might very well have failed. Wan Wuying regarded Chu Xuan with great interest, seeing him as a piece of uncut jade. Such promising young disciples were rare these days. After the destruction of the Infinite Sect, it was likely that all the promising immortal cultivators in the Yu Kingdom were under the control of the 5 orthodox sects. Chu Xuan, with his potential, could very well advance to the Golden Core in the future. Such a disciple should be kept close and nurtured carefully. Wan Wuying smiled warmly, Chu Xuan, would you like to take me as your master? Chu Xuan immediately performed the ritual to acknowledge a master, respectfully saying, Elder ancestor above, accept your disciple's bow. Wan Wuying laughed heartily, very good, very good. Having a disciple like you brings great comfort to my heart. Su Ming, Chen Gu Wei Hua, and Bai Feng all watched this scene with envy. This was a Golden Core elder, a figure as elusive as a dragon, rarely seen by anyone. Yet now, he personally offered to take Chu Xuan as his disciple because of his talents and strength. In the past, Chu Xuan was merely a minor cultivator at the 4th level of qi refining. Such treatment was unheard of. Li Xianming watched this and felt a mix of emotions. Chu Xuan's exceptional talents and strength clearly surpassed his own in Wan Wuying's eyes, which was why he offered to take him as a disciple first. His own position might be threatened in the future. He recalled how he used to call Chu Xuan junior brother and arrogantly assigned him tasks like standing guard. Little did he know, Chu Xuan's abilities were now on par with his own. He had been too proud and had underestimated Chu Xuan. Wan Wuying chuckled, Xianming, now that the Infinite Sect is down to just one Golden Core cultivator, would you like to take me as your master? Li Xianming did not hesitate. He knelt on one knee and performed the ritual. Disciple Li Xianming greets master. Wan Wuying turned to Wu Tong. Wu Tong understood immediately. Disciple Wu Tong greets master. Wan Wuying nodded in satisfaction. He then looked towards Chu Xuan. Xuaner, you have the best potential, but Xianming, Wuting and Zhenxiong have more seniority than you. From now on, Li Xianming is your eldest senior brother, Lu Zhenxiong will be your second senior brother, and Wu Tong will be your third senior brother. Wan Wuying chuckled. Now, come and greet your 3 senior brothers.
Yes.
Chu Xuan paid his respects to the 3 men in turn. With this, he was truly inducted under the banner of Wan Wuying, alongside his 3 senior brothers, led by Li Xianming. Chu Xuan had no intention of positioning himself above Li Xianming as the eldest senior brother. He had long known that Li Xianming desired this role. Besides, his own experience was relatively limited compared to that of Li Xianming and the others, and he lacked the authority that the role of eldest senior brother would require. Forcing the issue would only lead to unnecessary complications. Lu Zhenxiong asked, Master, what are your plans now? Wan Wuying didn't answer immediately. Instead he smiled and countered, the 5 orthodox sects, which are they? This was a question every cultivator in Yu Kingdom knew. If you spot this tale on Amazon, know that it has been stolen. Report the violation. Lu Zhenxiong immediately responded, Divine Star Sect, Golden Dragon Temple, Mystical Sound Palace, Imperial Spirit Mountain, and Heavenly Seal Sect. Wan Wuying then asked, who now controls the 3 states originally belonging to our Infinite Sect? Lu Jinxiong was taken aback, not knowing the answer to this. Li Xianming spoke solemnly, I know. Divine Star Sect has swallowed Tong Province, and Jiang Province has been split between Golden Dragon Temple and Mystical Sound Palace. The northern third of Wu Province, a populous and fertile land, went to Imperial Spirit Mountain. The southern two-thirds of Wu Province, a wilderness, was taken by the Heavenly Seal Sect. Wan Wuying smiled slightly. The southern part of Wu Province, a sweltering jungle teeming with snakes, insects, rats and ghosts, was of no interest to the other four sects and was simply handed over to Heavenly Seal Sect. What do you think is the attitude of Heavenly Seal Sect now? The three disciples looked enlightened. The 5 orthodox sects had all contributed to the attack on Infinite Sect, but the division of the spoils was clearly uneven. Divine Star Sect, being the strongest, took the lion's share. Golden Dragon Temple, the second in strength, only received half a state. Heavenly Seal Sect fared the worst with the wildlands of southern Wu Province. Heavenly Seal Sect must be harboring resentment. Chu Xuan had already guessed Wan Wuying's target. Wan Wuying squinted his eyes and smiled. Exactly, Heavenly Seal Sect. During the great battle against our Infinite Sect, 2 of Heavenly Seal Sect's golden core cultivators fell. Now they must also develop the wildlands of southern Wu Province, which requires more manpower. Joining Heavenly Seal Sect now is an excellent choice. Wu Tung expressed concern, but Master, we are demonic cultivators, will Heavenly Seal Sect accept us? Wan Wuying chuckled, there will be those who oppose recruiting us. But what of that? Do they not want the techniques and spells of the Infinite Sect? A golden core cultivator, 4 foundation establishment stage cultivators, and these qi refining stage cultivators, don't they want them? Li Xianming and the others nodded in agreement. The benefits were too apparent to be simply handed over. Moreover, other sects had also accepted surrendering cultivators from the Infinite Sect. Golden core cultivators are the result of years of arduous cultivation, and to produce another would take 400 to 500 years. Thus, when such cultivators willingly offered their allegiance, enhancing a sect's strength at no additional cost, it was an opportunity not to be missed. One day later, under the leadership of Wan Wuying, the group headed straight for the nearest Heavenly Seal Sect branch. The main base of the Heavenly Seal Sect is located in Jin Province in the western part of Wu Province. Only after the fall of the Infinite Sect did the Heavenly Seal Sect dare to expand eastward and swallow up Wu Province. Despite the region being rife with evil spirits, ghosts, an abundance of snakes, insects, rats and ants, and some local minor sects banding together to create obstacles, the expansion process was incredibly difficult. However, over the years, the Heavenly Seal Sect managed to establish 2 branches in Wu Province. The one Wan Wuying and his group arrived at was one of these, known as Flying Mountain Hall. Flying Mountain Hall was nestled among green mountains and clear waters, with lush cypresses and bamboo growing around it, presenting an elegant appearance at first glance. In reality, only this spot was considered serene. The surrounding area was infested with poisonous creatures and evil spirits. Without the efforts of the Heavenly Seal Sect's cultivators to clear the way, no mortal would dare establish a branch in such a place. From a high vantage point, there didn't seem to be many cultivators inside Flying Mountain Hall, mostly qi refining stage cultivators. The foundation establishment stage cultivators were almost all immersed in their cultivation practices. The arrival of Wan Wuying immediately shook all the monks present. Who is in charge here? Bring him out, Wan Wuying demanded, looking around calmly. Moments later, a middle-aged cultivator hurried forward.
Senior, you are?
He immediately felt an immense pressure emanating from Wan Wuying, guessing at a glance that this might be a golden core cultivator. He dared not delay and bowed respectfully, addressing him as senior.
I am Wan Wuying, a golden core cultivator, declared Wan Wuying.
Tell the elders of the Heavenly Seal Sect that I wish to lead my extreme Een Cave lineage to join the Heavenly Seal Sect. With a grand wave of his hand, Wan Wuying spoke calmly. The middle-aged cultivator was momentarily stunned.
Wan Wuying?
The name sounded familiar. Wait, wasn't Wan Wuying the golden core cultivator from the Infinite Sect who was reportedly slain by a coalition of the Divine Star Sect and the Golden Dragon Temple some time ago? Could this be the same Wan Wuying, a golden core demonic cultivator from the Infinite Sect? The middle-aged cultivator's eyes widened in shock. The middle-aged cultivator swallowed nervously. Not only he, but all the disciples of the Heavenly Seal Sect present also gulped in apprehension. With a golden core powerhouse right in front of them, they dared not point fingers or accuse him of being an unscrupulously evil demonic cultivator. After all, it would be effortless for such a being to obliterate everyone in the Flying Mountain Hall. Why are you not moving? Do you want me to kill a few to prove myself? Wan Wuying's voice carried a menacing humor. The middle-aged cultivator, as if his tail were on fire, quickly pulled out a long-distance transmission jade.
Just a moment, please.
I'll inform my master right away. Ordinary transmission jades had limited range, but a long-distance transmission jade could cover up to 100,000 li, encapsulating virtually all of Yu Kingdom. An exaggeration, but it certainly could cover a significant part of Jin Province and Wu Province. The cultivator hurriedly relayed the situation to the main temple in detail. After a moment, he turned back to Wan Wuying with great respect. Senior Wan, and all from the Infinite Sect, please wait here. Our Heavenly Seal Sect's Golden Core ancestors will arrive within half a day at most. Wan Wuying corrected him calmly. You are mistaken, it is Extreme Een Cave. Yes, Extreme Een Cave.
Extreme Een Cave.
The middle-aged cultivator quickly corrected himself. Chu Xuan listened thoughtfully. The Infinite Sect had 10 Golden Core ancestors, each possessing their own cave abodes. Normally, they were spread out, each independently recruiting disciples. They only gathered together in times of crisis or during major ceremonies. Wan Wuying's cave was known as Extreme Een Cave. Clearly, Wan Wuying's deliberate omission of Infinite Sect and only mentioning Extreme Een Cave was to disassociate from the Infinite Sect and avoid giving his enemies any leverage. This was the first step in a demonic cultivator's attempt to cleanse his reputation. Go about your business, I'll wait here, Wan Wuying said calmly. Yes, the middle-aged cultivator nodded fervently. Chu Xuan and the others stood in the plaza, while the disciples of the Heavenly Seal Sect went about their tasks, keeping their distance. Half a day later, a streak of light appeared from the horizon.
Old Ghost Wan.
What brings you to my Heavenly Seal Sect? Not afraid of death, are you? A cold, mocking voice came from the sky. Wan Wuying chuckled strangely. Ah, it's you. Well, not to be impolite, but even if your Heavenly Seal Sect sent 2 Golden Core cultivators, they wouldn't be a match for me. What do I have to fear? The figure appeared on the ground in the blink of an eye. Chu Xuan looked closely and saw that the newcomer was a middle-aged cultivator with a refined appearance. Dressed in blue robes and a belt around his waist, which upon closer inspection turned out to be a slender green snake. Ha, old Ghost Wan, you're still as merciless in your speech as ever, the elegant cultivator laughed heartily. Showing off everywhere with your green snake, huh? Wan Wuying sneered mockingly. This story has been taken without authorization.
Report any sightings.
The elegant cultivator chuckled lightly. It's just a small hobby of mine. He pointed towards the main hall. Old Ghost Wan, let's talk inside. He then glanced at Chu Xuan and the others, smiling. Someone bring tea for these young friends from Extreme Een Cave. Don't neglect them. Yes, the middle-aged cultivator nodded repeatedly. Chu Xuan and the others were led to a side hall where tea was promptly served. The fragrance of the tea filled the air, bitter yet sweet.
It was Ku Mao Feng, a specialty of Wu Province.
The tea was rich in spiritual qi and could refine the body and purge impurities when consumed regularly. Of course, it couldn't compare to the effects of medicinal pills, but many cultivators favored it as a gift to others. When the Infinite Sect was still around, Chu Xuan had once received a small jar of it and thought he would never taste it again in his lifetime. Yet, here it was once more. Do you think this will work? Wu Tong sipped his tea and whispered, that refined-looking senior seems to have some rapport with our master. Li Xianming calmly responded, that Golden Core senior is named Zhao Wuya. He has always disliked the domineering ways of the Divine Star Sect. The Heavenly Seal Sect sending him over likely indicates a willingness to negotiate. Lu Zhenxiong nodded in agreement. When Senior Zhao spoke, he also made no mention of the Infinite Sect, only referring to Extreme Een Cave. If the Heavenly Seal Sect had no intention of accepting them, they would have sent several Golden Core cultivators to eliminate them right away instead of just one man to welcome and entertain them. After 2 tense hours of waiting, there finally was a resolution. Wan Wuying and Zhao Wuya entered the side hall with a lively discussion, like old friends who hadn't spoken for years. Wan Wuying commented, Old Zhao, that green scale snake of yours has a pure bloodline, you should cultivate it well, don't waste its potential. I have the proper methods for raising it, here, take them. Zhao Wuya responded with modesty, you're too kind, as he slipped the pages into his pocket. Seeing this interaction, Chu Xuan and the others felt a relief wash over them. Zhao Wuya looked toward Chu Xuan and his group, his gaze finally resting on Li Xianming. You must be Li Xianming, achieving so much at such a young age. When I was your age, I was still at the 7th or 8th level of qi refining. Li Xianming humbly smiled. Senior Zhao's foundation is profound, and his progress is steady and strong. I merely acted rashly and without much forethought. Zhao Wuya laughed heartily, you have a way with words. He then became reflective. It was you who led the team to rescue old Ghost Wan from Misty Manor, wasn't it?
Well done.
As a disciple, to have such awareness, you are destined to be a great figure in Yu Kingdom. Zhao Wuya continued with enthusiasm. My subordinates just brought news that Huikong from the Golden Dragon Temple is dead. That was your doing as well, right?
Well done, well done.
It doesn't matter if you've lost more than one before, what matters is who gets the last laugh. Li Xianming, initially pleased, suddenly looked embarrassed. Zhao Wuya paused, puzzled. What, wasn't it you? Wan Wuying burst into laughter. Oh Zhao Wuya, you always boast about your strategic foresight, but it seems you've guessed wrong this time. Zhao Wuya scratched his head somewhat discomfited. Then who could it be?
Lu Zhenxiong? Your disciple.
Wan Wuying shook his head again. Zhao Wuya turned to Wu Teng. Surely not. Wu Teng also smiled awkwardly and shrank back a bit. Wan Wuying continued to shake his head. Finally, Zhao Wuya's gaze fell on Chu Xuan. Could it be? Wan Wuying grinned, half mocking. Keep guessing. Zhao Wuya scrutinized Chu Xuan thoroughly as if trying to see through him. This young man is a new face. I've never seen him before. Information about the young Foundation establishment stage disciples from various sects was more or less already known to other sections. Figures like Li Xianming, Lu Zhenxiong, and Huikong were already on the intelligence lists of the Heavenly Seal sect. As for Wu Teng, although older, he had been a Foundation establishment stage prodigy in his time, just not as youthful as the others. Only Chu Xuan, this unfamiliar face, was completely unknown to Zhao Wuya. Wan Wuying laughed heartily. His name is Chu Xuan. When the Infinite Sect was destroyed, he was only at the 4th level of Qi refining. It was he who killed Huikong and the one who rescued me from Misty Manor. Zhao Wuya was stunned for a moment before reacting with irritation. Old Ghost Wan, stop joking with me. The Infinite Sect was destroyed less than 2 years ago. How could he have risen from the 4th level of Qi refining all the way to the Foundation establishment stage? Wan Wuying shrugged. How should I know? Chu Xuan felt somewhat helpless inside. He had intended to keep a low profile, but his new master had just blown his cover. Having a master who loved to show off was truly headache-inducing. He bowed to Zhao Wuya. Senior Zhao, the destruction of the Infinite Sect made me realize the brutal truth of the cultivation world. Only the strong survive. It was as if I had an epiphany that day. Plus, I had some good luck with unexpected encounters that allowed my cultivation to advance so rapidly. My talents are actually not superior to those of Senior Brother Li or Senior Brother Lu. It's just good fortune, nothing more. Chu Xuan was well aware of his own cultivation aptitude. It really had been just good luck. If it hadn't been for obtaining the blood mirror, and by chance acquiring the apocalyptic planet to use as his backyard, how could he have reached his current level of cultivation and strength? Seeing his humility, Wan Wuying nodded slightly in approval. Zhao Wuya listened and nodded as well. Fortuitous encounters were something that one could encounter but not seek. The cultivation world was full of stories about people who fell off cliffs only to stumble upon the cave dwellings left by powerful predecessors. Some were even directly elevated from mortal to the Foundation establishment stage in a single day. Compared to those, Chu Xuan's extraordinary encounters seemed rather common. If it was true that he had such an encounter, then his rapid advancement over the past 2 years wasn't something out of the ordinary. Zhao Wuya nodded and remarked, Old Ghost Wan, you've got yourself a fine disciple. Wan Wuying chuckled, clearly pleased with himself. Zhao Wuya bowed slightly. I will report the situation to the sect master. Within 2 days, there should be a formal directive. For the next 2 days, please rest here at Flying Mountain Hall. Wan Wuying nodded. Good, I'll await your swift news, Brother Zhao. Zhao Wuya stomped on the ground, rose into the air with the aid of his qi, and disappeared in the blink of an eye. The middle-aged cultivator who had previously received Wan Wuying hurried over. He respectfully said, Senior Wan, my name is Li Shan, I am an inner sect administrator of the Heavenly Seal sect, currently in charge of the affairs at Flying Mountain Hall. For you and the other friends from Extreme Eam Cave, I have arranged temporary cave abodes. Senior Wan, Wan Wuying waved his hand dismissively. Just arrange them as you see fit. After the formal appointment arrives in 2 days, I will set up my own cave dwelling. Yes, Li Shan acknowledged and left. Everyone go and rest, Wan Wuying gestured dismissively. Chu Xuan, guided by the disciples of the Heavenly Seal sect, proceeded to his temporary cave dwelling situated halfway up the mountain. Upon entering, he immediately inspected the area, ensuring there were no existing formations that could spy on him. Once assured of his privacy, he began setting up his own array of intricate, confusing, and deadly traps. Only after securing his surroundings did he truly settle down on the stone bed to relax. Reflecting on the recent events, even Chu Xuan was astonished by his own strength. I never expected to be this powerful, he mused. Huikong was among the top in his generation of Foundation establishment stage cultivators, and I eliminated him without even resorting to my goo insects. It seems my strength might already surpass most early Foundation establishment cultivators. This story has been unlawfully obtained without the author's consent. Report any appearances on Amazon. With a slight smile, Chu Xuan acknowledged his newfound understanding of his capabilities. Currently, at the second level of Foundation establishment, he was already overpowering most at the initial stages. Once he reached the third level, even those at the fourth level would likely pose no challenge. With the blood mirror in hand and an entire planet of zombies at his disposal as resources, advancing his cultivation was only a matter of time. Suddenly, Chu Xuan felt a stirring within him. Ah, the evil soul chain has some activity, he noted, pulling out the artifact. The souls within the evil soul chain, particularly the restless souls he had intended to stabilize, were always problematic. Initially, he had planned to use Sun Shi's soul for this purpose, but after acquiring Huikong's soul, he had thrown it into the mix as well. Now, a battle had been waged between the two souls, and a victor had emerged. Roar! A triumphant roar echoed from within the evil soul chain. Looking closely, Chu Xuan saw Huikong's soul viciously tearing apart Sun Shi's soul and devouring it swiftly. Activating the evil soul chain, Chu Xuan summoned Huikong's soul. Now reduced to a mere soul, Huikong's eyes burned with a ferocious and bloodthirsty light, devoid of any human rationality. The soul lunged at Chu Xuan, but with a thought, Chu Xuan sharply tugged on the evil soul chain. Crack! The pain caused Huikong's soul to grimace, his spirit form dimming significantly. Yet, undeterred, he continued his fierce assault. Crack! The evil soul chain whipped again, and Huikong's spirit dimmed even further. After a dozen more lashes, Huikong's form was so faint it was nearly transparent, on the verge of dissipation. Chu Xuan frowned, realizing he must stop. Any more could destroy Huikong's soul entirely. Yet, at that moment, Huikong's gaze finally softened, subdued. Satisfied, Chu Xuan nodded. It was done. Huikong's now violent and ruthless nature made him an ideal soul for the evil soul chain. Should Chu Xuan capture more cultivator souls in the future, he could simply feed them to Huikong for enhancement. As his life-bound magic tool, the evil soul chain would only grow stronger over time, and naturally, so would Huikong's capabilities within it. Not bad. Now let's continue the soul refining technique. Without stowing the evil soul chain, Chu Xuan allowed Huikong to roam around the cave while he himself sat down and closed his eyes, circulating the soul refining technique to further refine his spirit. Despite several menacing glares from Huikong, the subdued soul, now fearful, dared not act out and eventually settled down quietly. 2 days flashed by quickly. Su Ming's voice suddenly echoed outside the cave. Uncle Master Chu. The appointment has arrived. The elder sent me to call you out. Chu Xuan exhaled, finished his meditation, and strode out of the cave, his eyes still flickering with a sharp light that made Su Ming shiver slightly. Speak, Chu Xuan said calmly. Su Ming quickly relayed the news. Our extreme Yin cave lineage has been fully integrated into the Heavenly Seal sect. However, we won't be joining the main sect of the Heavenly Seal sect. Instead, we will establish our own cave dwelling here in Wu Province to assist Flying Mountain Hall in expanding its territory. Chu Xuan smiled faintly. This was as he had expected. The Heavenly Seal sect couldn't afford to turn away a golden core cultivator and 4 foundation establishment cultivators. Setting up a local cave dwelling was indeed the best option. Where is the master? Chu Xuan asked. Su Ming respectfully replied, he is selecting a site rich in spiritual qi to establish the cave dwelling. He instructed you to head south, and you should see him there. Good, Chu Xuan nodded. He immediately summoned his flying sword and soared into the air, heading south. Su Ming watched his departing figure, filled with both admiration and aspiration. Someday, I too want to be like Uncle Master Chu, he muttered, clenching his fists with determination. Chu Xuan continued southward and soon noticed a streak of light moving back and forth in the sky. Li Xianming, Lu Zhenxiong, and Wu Tong were hovering mid-air on their flying tools, waiting for him. Junior Brother Chu, they all greeted him with smiles. Junior Brother Chu, your spirit seems to have improved, Lu Zhenxiong suddenly commented. Chu Xuan nodded, indeed, I have completed the first level of the soul refining technique. Lu Zhenxiong expressed his admiration, that's quick. Foremost, it takes years to master the first level of the soul refining technique. At that moment, a rumbling noise came from the mountain ahead. Evidently, Wan Wuying was beginning to establish the new cave dwelling. Let's go, Li Xianming said, his eyes gleaming with excitement. As Chu Xuan and his companions approached, they saw that the mountain peak ahead had been flattened, creating a spacious training ground. This site, nestled among several surrounding peaks, was ideal as a communal area for the disciples of Extreme Yin Cave to spar and communicate. A gust of wind swept through as Wan Wuying materialized in front of them. Chu Xuan and his fellow disciples bowed and addressed him as master. Wan Wuying nodded slightly, This area contains the densest spiritual qi within thousands of li. I have already notified the Heavenly Seal Sect, and this training ground, spanning 3,000 li, will be Extreme Een Caves territory. You four establish your own cave dwelling within this 3,000 li radius, Wan Wuying continued with a slight smile. From now on, we will cultivate this land well. As long as we live and our lineage continues, a resurgence is more than possible. Yes. Chu Xuan and his companions nodded solemnly. Wan Wuying went on, start by establishing your cave dwellings. I will negotiate with the Heavenly Seal Sect for the various cultivation resources you need. They need our strength and dare not refuse. Once we're settled, we'll begin relocating mortals here and incorporate these barbaric lands beyond civilization into Extreme Een Caves domain. Only then will we truly be established. Chu Xuan nodded deeply in agreement. This strategy mirrored the old ways of the Infinite Sect. Once one became an inner disciple, hundreds of mortal servants were always at hand, their sole purpose to prepare meals, clean dwellings, and so forth for the sect's disciples. Cultivators were essential, but these servants were also indispensable. Furthermore, many of the ingredients needed for pill concoctions and materials required for crafting were gathered by mortals. Only the most precious resources demanded the personal attention of cultivators. Also crucial were the spirit seeds, mortals born with spiritual roots, who would be tested and then join the sect to train and potentially become its new disciples. Those with lesser talents might leave the sect to start families, whose offspring were more likely to become spirit seeds themselves, creating a beneficial cycle that would ensure the sect's prosperity and growth. Behind every thriving sect was an immense support system of countless mortals, a fact Chu Xuan never overlooked. Having finished his instructions, Wan Wuying disappeared in a flash. More rumbling noises indicated that he was busy establishing his own dwelling. I'll go over there. Li Xianming pointed north. Lu Jinxiong and Wu Tung also began to search for suitable locations to establish their dwellings. Chu Xuan, however, chose to go alone to the south. He had no special requirements for his dwelling, seeking only tranquility and solitude, crucial for when he needed to travel to the zombie planet, away from the mundane affairs of this realm. Chu Xuan circled the area on his flying sword for quite some time before finally choosing a secluded valley. Inside the valley, a waterfall cascaded down, creating a small lake teeming with unknown fish and shrimp. The lake was surrounded by bamboo and various unnamed trees, making the environment tranquil and picturesque, perfect for Chu Xuan's preference. Stolen from its rightful author, this tale is not meant to be on Amazon. Report any sightings. This will be the place, Chu Xuan decided, somewhat whimsically choosing to situate his cave dwelling behind the waterfall. He took out the evil soul chain and with a forceful swing, struck the rocky mountainside. Thud thud thud. The solid rock was blasted open. The evil soul chain, likely never anticipating it would be used as a tool for smashing rocks, sent shards flying in all directions, startling the fish in the lake. Despite their frantic attempts to escape, the fish could not leave the confines of the lake, much like the inescapable bonds of one's life. Soon, a rough cave dwelling was carved out. To smooth the uneven rocks inside, Chu Xuan employed a few transmute rock to mud spells, easily handling the smaller rocks. This spell could only transform rocks up to the size of a fist, which was why Chu Xuan initially needed to use the evil soul chain for the larger task of excavation. Finally, Chu Xuan conjured a sphere of water to wash away the mud and debris, officially completing the construction of the dwelling. Next, he set about laying down various formations around the cave: concealment, warding, alarm, and spirit-gathering arrays. These were tasks Chu Xuan was adept at. Within an hour, he had secured the valley with these defensive and utility formations. Unless a golden core cultivator intervened, no foundation establishment stage cultivator could breach these defenses in a short time. Pity I still lack a formation soul to guard the place, Chu Xuan thought. With a formation soul, even in my absence, the safety of the cave dwelling could be ensured. He made a mental note of this requirement before heading back inside. The cave dwelling itself was simple, comprising only a cultivation room, an alchemy room, a tool forging room, and a spirit plant room, currently all quite sparse. Chu Xuan did not plan to store anything valuable here, it was more about maintaining appearances. Just then, a voice echoed from outside. "Junior brother Chu, where are you?"
It was Lu Jinxiong's voice.
Chu Xuan mounted his heavenly star flying sword and flew to the entrance of the cave. Sure enough, he saw Lu Jinxiong and the other two approaching together. Have all three senior brothers successfully established their cave dwellings? Chu Xuan asked with a smile as he bowed courteously. Lu Jinxiong laughed heartily. What difficulty could there possibly be in establishing a dwelling? It is naturally straightforward. Wu Tung looked down at the valley below and remarked, "Junior brother Chu, you chose this place? Quite splendid indeed, a scene of remarkable beauty." Li Xianming smiled. What name have you given to your cave dwelling, junior brother Chu? After a moment's thought, Chu Xuan replied with a smile, the Water Curtain Cave. All three brightened at the name, an excellent name, carrying a touch of ancient charm. The four conversed freely, and through this exchange, Chu Xuan also learned about the locations and names of their respective dwellings. As dusk fell, they finally parted ways. Chu Xuan returned once more to the Water Curtain Cave. This time, he activated all the formations. Seated on a stone bed, he reflected on recent events. This time, my gains have been substantial. Most importantly, I have pledged allegiance under Wan Wuying and successfully cleansed my identity, transforming into a disciple of the Heavenly Seal sect. Henceforth, I am no longer a demonic cultivator pursued by all. Additionally, the evil soul chain now possesses a soul, adding significantly to my arsenal with Huekong's fierce spirit. Next, there is the second transformation of the Gongxi. I will need to spend more time nurturing it into my life-bound goo insect. Finally, I have also acquired several Foundation Establishment cultivator storage bags, including those of Sun Shi and Huikong. I have perused those of Sun Shi and others but have yet to examine Huekong's. Chu Xuan then took out Huekong's storage bag. After slaying Huikong, he immediately entered the underground palace to rescue Wan Wuying, and then quickly left Misty Manor for Flying Mountain Hall. He had hardly had any downtime until now. Huekong's storage bag was extraordinary. Qi refining stage cultivators generally used low-grade storage bags, with a space of only about 1 cubic meter. Foundation establishment stage cultivators usually had medium-grade storage bags, offering 10 cubic meters of space. However, Huikong possessed a high-grade storage bag, providing a whopping 100 cubic meters. It is well known that spatial magic tools are more valuable than other types such as offensive, defensive or flying magic tools, due to their unique nature. High-grade storage bags are about 30% more expensive than high-grade magic tools of other types. Even Li Xianming currently used a medium-grade bag. Indeed, Huikong was worthy of being considered a prodigy of the Golden Dragon Temple. Such extravagance! Rubbing his hands together excitedly, Chu Xuan slowly opened the storage bag. Various treasures immediately caught his eye. First and foremost were the dazzling spirit stones, a small mountain of small spirit stones, roughly estimated at 3,000 pieces. Medium spirit stones were piled in the corner, about 50 in total. Just these spirit stones alone could purchase 3 to 4 high-grade magic tools. Besides the spirit stones, Chu Xuan spotted several magic tools, all of medium grade. Now accustomed to finer items, these medium-grade tools barely caught his interest. They were better than nothing. He had hoped to find Huekong's Vajra beads, an offensive and defensive magic tool that was a rare find. If tainted with evil qi, it could potentially be used by him. Unfortunately, the Vajra beads and Vajra cassock used by Huikong had been destroyed in battle, leaving only the Kakara saber in Chu Xuan's possession. Although the saber crafted by the monks of the Golden Dragon Temple was exceptionally fierce, he found it difficult to control, only able to unleash 30% of its power. Golden Dragon Array, Ghost Repelling Array, Evil Expelling Array. These formations are quite good, but I have no use for them. I'll find an opportunity to sell them. Foundation Establishment Stage Array Formations Detailed Analysis. This is useful. Is that a box of Earth Evil Pills? Earth Evil Pills, crafted from the flesh of Earth Evil, were toxic to cultivators but highly beneficial for corpse puppets. Many zombie soldiers needing advancement to higher ranks relied on these pills. The Infinite Sect had once cultivated a large quantity of Earth Evil specifically for this purpose. Chu Xuan had been wondering where he might find Earth Evil to make these pills, and now Huikong had unwittingly delivered them right to him. There are even some Earth Evil seeds here, he noted. These must have been taken from a demonic cultivator slain by Huikong. He did not understand their value, simply stored them in his bag. The narrative has been illicitly obtained. Should you discover it on Amazon, report the violation. Chu Xuan smiled and continued rummaging through the bag. What's this? He muttered upon discovering an exquisitely crafted large jade box. A seal affixed to the box bore the inscription, "Do not open unless meritorious enough." Raising an eyebrow, Chu Xuan mused about merit. While he couldn't speak for others, he knew he possessed significant merit. Without hesitation, he opened the jade box. Inside, an ancient bronze bell lay quietly. Its surface was engraved with various celestial beings, fierce Vajras, serene Bodhisattvas, and smiling Buddhas. For a moment, Chu Xuan felt as though he was drawn into the gaze of these divine figures, feeling as insignificant as an ant before mountains. The strange vision vanished as quickly as it had appeared, and he found himself still in the cave. This magic tool induced a vision in me, he marveled. Can it really be so powerful? Startled yet thrilled by the power he'd sensed without even activating it, Chu Xuan pondered, I wonder if I can use this bell? After much contemplation and preparation, he finally took out the bell. The moment it emerged, it told on its own, radiating Buddha's light as if testing whether the user was worthy of wielding it. Then, unexpectedly, a halo of merit appeared behind Chu Xuan's head. It slowly rotated, vast and majestic, as if a true Buddha had descended to the earthly realm. The sound from the bell ceased abruptly, like a duck squawking at midnight suddenly silenced by a firm grip around its neck. In that moment, the divine gaze of the gods and Buddhas engraved on the bell's surface lost all their intimidating force towards Chu Xuan, seeming ingratiating. The halo of merit flickered and vanished. Chu Xuan, looking at the now docile bell before him, scratched his head. It seems my little bit of merit actually did some good here, he chuckled to himself. Upon closer inspection of the bell, Chu Xuan soon found 2 words etched into its base: Merit Bell. His eyebrows rose in recognition. He had heard of this treasure. Yuan Hong, the former abbot of the Golden Dragon Temple who was a Foundation Establishment stage monk at the time, had wielded this merit bell. With the bell in hand, Yuan Hong stood unshaken like a saint in his sacred robes, unfazed by powerful foes. His most famous feat was when he alone withstood the assault of 6 demonic cultivators of the same realm for 5 days and nights until reinforcements arrived. Now that Yuan Hong had ascended to the Golden Core stage, the merit bell had naturally been passed down to another monk, unexpectedly, to Huikong. Clearly, Huikong's merits had been insufficient, otherwise, he would have utilized the merit bell in their previous battle. The merit bell was a top-grade magic tool, and if truly operational, even all 4 of them together could not breach its defenses.
Excellent.
Others can hardly make it. I can do it easy. Chu Xuan couldn't help but laugh. What a fortuitous turn of events. The Golden Dragon Temple could never have imagined that a demonic cultivator's merit would be profound enough to activate the merit bell. He glanced affectionately at Huikong, who appeared utterly bewildered, now devoid of his past life's memories and only filled with awe towards Chu Xuan. Oh Huikong, you really have done me a great favor. Chu Xuan spent some time reviewing everything in Huikong's storage bag and finally nodded in satisfaction. The merit bell, earth evil pills, and over 3,000 small spiritual stones were the greatest treasures he had gleaned from Huikong's possessions. After a brief moment of joy, he began to plan his next steps. First, cultivate my life-bound goo insect. Second, replenish my reserves of evil chi and large blood pearls. Third, find a powerful creature to serve as the main soul for my formation. Fourth, focus on cultivation to break through to higher realms. Each task is urgent. It's perfect to use the differing time flows between the 2 worlds to accelerate my progress. Chu Xuan took out the energy-filled blood mirror and immediately activated it, ready to harness its powers for the tasks ahead. Back on Blue Star, at the Haotai Hotel, Chu Xuan found himself once again in this familiar place. He appeared on the rooftop, preferring the open view here to the confines of a hotel room. No sooner had he materialized than he heard Hu's joyous roars. A robust figure charged towards him like a tank, reaching him in the blink of an eye. The large head affectionately rubbed against Chu Xuan, a peculiar sight to the uninitiated but sincere gesture of affection from a corpse puppet. Chu Xuan nodded with a smile. How have you been while I was away? Hu's response was an animated mix of roars and gestures. He pointed east, then west, hopped around and ran about, a picture of expressive enthusiasm. Of course, Chu Xuan couldn't understand any of it just by looking. It was through their spiritual connection that he grasped Hu's conveyed thoughts. As I thought, everything is mostly normal, though there was a minor incident, Chu Xuan murmured with a nod. Through Hu's thoughts, Chu Xuan learned about a dual-headed python that had appeared in East Lake City. The creature, over 20 meters long, had dominated the area, killing many supernatural beings around it. A couple of months ago, it had wreaked havoc in East Lake City itself, causing heavy losses to the Black Blade Security Company, which had to call for military assistance from the neighboring Linjiang forces. The python had also foolishly attempted to enter Chu Xuan's evil soul-snatching array. It had fled shortly after entering, seemingly affected slightly by the array. Hu had clashed with the python, beating it severely until it fled with a severed tail. Whether it had escaped into the Dragon River or was hiding somewhere deep in East Lake City to recover was unknown. Now, hundreds of Linjiang soldiers were scouring the waters of East Lake City for any sign of the python. Hu and Bao had encountered them but always swiftly disappeared into the shadows. The soldiers had not even detected their presence. Chu Xuan found the dual-headed python intriguing. The supernatural creatures of Blue Star seemed quite different from the demonic beasts of Mystic Azure Realm. A typical demonic beast entering his evil soul-snatching array would have been absorbed as nourishment by the array. Yet, this python had managed to survive, albeit briefly, which was surprising. Its soul might possess unique properties. If extracted, it could potentially serve as the main soul for his array. However, there was no rush. Since the Linjiang army squad had not yet left East Lake City, it indicated that the python was likely still somewhere nearby. A mere dual-headed python, no matter how strong, could not surpass a Foundation establishment stage cultivator. When he had time, he would simply capture it, no need to prioritize it as an urgent matter. "Where is Bao?" Chu Xuan casually inquired.
Roar, roar, roar. Who pointed north?
Chu Xuan nodded, understanding that Bao had gone out to forage. The zombies of East Lake City had been wiped out during the last zombie tide. Over the past year, although other zombies had wandered in from nearby cities, their numbers were relatively sparse. Consequently, Hu and Bao had ventured to neighboring cities like Two Dragons City to feed. Ensure your favorite authors get the support they deserve. Read this novel on the original website. Chu Xuan was confident in their strength. The real concern was for the zombies in those other cities. "Stay here and guard," Chu Xuan instructed casually.
Roar.
Hu thumped his chest solemnly. Settling down, Chu Xuan began the process of cultivating his life-bound goo. According to the Bloodworm's tome, 2 conditions were necessary for nurturing a life-bound goo. First, forming a bloodworm pouch. Second, nourishing the life-bound goo with blood essence. Now that the bloodworm pouch had formed, Chu Xuan needed to feed the blood steel wire with his blood essence.
Gongxi, come forth, he called softly.
A slit opened in his palm, and Gongxi wriggled out, affectionately brushing against his arm. Chu Xuan forced out 3 drops of blood essence, his complexion turning immediately pale. The blood steel wire, as if sensing a feast, quickly approached and swiftly consumed the blood drops.
Sigh.
The production rate of blood essence is really slow, Chu Xuan lamented. On average, it seems I can only produce 1 drop every 3 days.
He shook his head, resigned.
He couldn't afford to give too much blood at once, as it might overfeed the blood steel wire. A month passed in the blink of an eye. With 1 drop of blood every 3 days, plus the initial 3 drops, Chu Xuan had fed the blood steel wire a total of 13 drops of blood. The connection between him and the blood steel wire grew tighter by the day. On the final day, as he fed it the 14th drop of blood, Chu Xuan suddenly felt a clarity of spirit. The blood steel wire felt like an extension of his own limbs. With just a thought from him, it knew exactly what to do. It was like directing his own arm. The life-bound goo was established. With this, the blood steel wire's combat capabilities were greatly enhanced, and the likelihood of backlash was significantly reduced. However, should the blood steel wire suffer injury, Chu Xuan would feel it as if it were his own, experiencing significant trauma. This was a similar experience to what Wu Tung endured when his brain-eating motherworm was killed by Huikong, which caused him nearly to faint from the backlash of his life-bound goo being destroyed. Chu Xuan gently caressed the steel wire, his face breaking into a satisfied smile. My decision was indeed correct. Cultivating a life-bound goo takes too much time. It cannot be done in Mystic Azure Realm. Regrettably, the blood steel wire egg I previously planted not only failed to hatch but also perished. Chu Xuan recalled the incident with a hint of regret. It seemed there was an inherent defect in the blood steel wire egg. Despite absorbing his blood, it had silently dissolved after a month or 2. My next goo could totally be of a different type. Perhaps I could allow Gongxi to mate with a more powerful goo to produce a new variety of eggs. That's another option. Having spent time studying the Bloodworm's tome, Chu Xuan was now thoroughly familiar with it. He knew exactly how to cultivate better goo. His current life-bound goo's lineage had already far surpassed that of ordinary blood steel wire. If one had to categorize it, it could be considered a mutated blood steel wire. He could certainly find an opportunity for it to mate with a stronger goo to produce eggs. Of course, such eggs are not stable. It's essentially like opening a mystery box. A wrong choice could waste much effort and time. It's about time to go out and see where that dual-headed python is now. Chu Xuan stirred his spiritual qi, shaking off the dust that had accumulated on his body.
Roar, roar.
Hu joyously cried out. Over the past month, aside from foraging, he had stayed close to Chu Xuan, pleased that his master needed him. He noticed Bao's roars were not as vigorous, so he hustled over and gave him a forceful nudge, roaring as if to say, "The master is here, and what are you doing?" Bao whimpered, seeming to admit his fault. Chu Xuan chuckled and patted their heads. He had seen Hu's loyalty.
Come on, let's go for a walk. Roar, roar.
Hu and Bao roared excitedly. Chu Xuan stored them in the corpse nurturing tower, took out his flying sword, and immediately soared into the sky. Meanwhile, a temporary encampment of the Linjiang army by the river. This encampment is adjacent to the Black Blade Security Company. However, compared to the small buildings of the security company nearby, the scale of the temporary encampment is noticeably larger. Moreover, it exudes the efficiency and vigor typical of a regular military force. At this moment, inside the central small building of the encampment, 7 people are gathered around a round table, deep in discussion. Among these 7 individuals, 3 are dressed in the military uniforms of the Linjiang army, seated at the head. The leader among them is a burly, bald man. To his left is a slender woman.
And to his right, a lean man.
They are the 3 commanders of the Linjiang army, named Xiongxing, Lin Xiao, and Li Taimu respectively. The other 4 individuals are dressed in civilian clothes, and seated on both sides. These 4 are the 4 superhumans of the Black Blade Security Company. The crew-cut man is Wang Jiangang. The middle-aged lean man is Wang Jiangong's cousin, Wang Yong. The stout man is Tang Jinchuan. The middle-aged one-armed man is Song Dei. I still believe that, given the number of our personnel, it is impossible to intercept the twin-headed python from entering the lower reaches of the Dragon River. We must request reinforcements from headquarters. Li Taimu said sternly. Do not forget that python broke through the blockade formed by the 5 of us and over 300 Linjiang soldiers. Lin Xiao, however, immediately shook her head. That python had already suffered a serious injury when it broke through the blockade in the first place, and some time ago it also fought with an unknown being and suffered another injury, so now it is definitely nestled to recuperate. By the time support from headquarters arrives, its wounds will have already healed. I believe there is no time to delay. We must quickly make arrangements to intercept the python and ensure it does not enter the lower reaches of the Dragon River. That area is not our territory. Xiongxing rubbed his temples and looked toward the seldom-speaking members of Black Blade. He asked, This city is your turf, Wang Gangjian. What are your thoughts? Wang Gangjian offered a sheepish smile. What thoughts could I possibly have? I will defer to your judgment. He was merely a retired soldier who had returned to civilian life. Had it not been for the Linjiang army's conscription and his own fortuitous awakening of talent, he would never have been able to establish the Black Blade Security Company and claim Donghu as his territory. He understood this much at least. Wang Gangjian said nothing, but Tang Jinchuan spoke up. I suggest we ask for assistance from the cultivator residing at the Haotai Hotel. With his intervention, not only intercepting the twin-headed python but even killing it would not be difficult. After he spoke, Xiongxing, Lin Xiao, and Li Taimu all frowned. Wang Gangjian and Wang Yong inwardly cursed their luck. Since the 3 Linjiang army officers had been stationed in the city, they had been ordered to contact the mysterious cultivator at the Haotai Hotel. However, no matter how much they called out, there was not a sound from within the hotel. If they tried to force their way in, it was like entering a fog, leaving them dizzy and disoriented, walking for 2 or 3 hours only to find they were still in the same place. The story has been taken without consent. If you see it on Amazon, report the incident. Clearly, this mysterious cultivator had no intention of meeting them. They, as commanders of the Linjiang army, pillars of the strongest force in Linjiang province, could not repeatedly lower themselves to court disdain from others. Xiongxing said indifferently, That person does not wish to see us. Let us speak no more of this. Tang Jinchuan wanted to argue further, but he was pulled back by Song Dei. He had no choice but to sit down. Tang Jinchuan had witnessed the cultivator's divine might firsthand. A powerful mutant spider was effortlessly slain by the cultivator. From then on, he knew that the cultivator's strength was incomparable to them. Even Yi Nantian, a general of the Linjiang army who had advanced to a 4th-level superhuman a few months ago, would likely be no match for him. Unfortunately, these 3 commanders were too proud, having only visited the Haotai Hotel twice before giving up. It seemed they felt it beneath their dignity. It was truly pitiful. Tang Jinchuan couldn't help but sigh inwardly. Moments later, Xiongxing brought down his gavel. Then it is decided. We will immediately set up barriers at the point where the Dragon River enters Hanhai province. Within a week, we must kill this python that plagues Linjiang province. The others responded in a solemn chorus, yes. To the south of Linjiang province lay Hanhai province. The Dragon River flows through Linjiang and into Hanhai. The ruling power in Hanhai province is the boat gang. These fellows and the Linjiang army were hardly on good terms. The interaction between the two was limited to basic trade. Once the twin-headed python escaped into Hanhai province, regardless of what the Linjiang army did, they would be powerless. After all, that was someone else's territory. Who wouldn't want such an extraordinary creature's psionic crystals? By then, troubles would surely multiply. Chu Xuan soared through the sky atop his flying sword, gazing down upon the earth. As he surveyed the land, he spotted a convoy moving southward along the Dragon River. Eventually, at the point where the river entered Hanhai province, various obstacles were deployed. The sturdy steel nets were bristling with barbs, ensnaring any fish that dared pass through. These devices were clearly the work of the industrially capable Linjiang army. Chu Xuan looked on with interest. It seemed the Linjiang army was preparing to intercept the twin-headed python. Coincidentally, he too was curious whether this python qualified as the main soul for his formation. If it proved unworthy, there would be no need to waste more time. He could leave the matter to the Linjiang soldiers. At that moment, a muffled explosion emanated from the city. Clearly, a group of Linjiang soldiers had commenced their assault. It seems the army has already found its hiding spot to recuperate, Chu Xuan noted with a light smile. Around East Lake City, fierce combat erupted. The giant snake's tail lashed violently, each strike stirring up monumental waves. Trees along the shore were not just shaken but swept away entirely. Numerous Linjiang soldiers, even those of the first-level superhuman rank, could not withstand the devastating power of the snake tail, being pulverized instantly. Chu Xuan watched their battle with interest. The combat between superhumans and supernature creatures was markedly different from the disputes among cultivators. The cultivation and combat systems of cultivators had been passed down for countless years and were well established. Yet, on this planet, the psionic outbreak had only begun a little over 5 years ago. For the superhumans, everything was a fresh challenge to be figured out. Their method of combat was quite peculiar. One moment, they utilized the psionic power within their bodies. The next, they resorted to small kinetic weapons like firearms. To Chu Xuan, it all seemed rather childish. Having reached the Foundation establishment stage, he was already immune to ordinary firearms. Only missiles or more advanced nuclear weapons could pose any threat to him now.
Did that hurt?
Just then, Chu Xuan noticed the python cry out in pain before diving deep into the water. From the splash it made, it was clear the creature had entered the Dragon River, rapidly swimming downstream. So far, I've seen nothing interesting. Let's watch a bit longer.
Chu Xuan shook his head.
It seemed this little python was destined to disappoint him.
The wake trailed southward.
Clearly, a colossal creature was fleeing along the Dragon River. The physical capabilities of supernatural beings had been enhanced in every aspect. Yet, intelligence was not easily gained. For most supernatural beings, their intelligence had only slightly improved compared to before. If one must make a comparison, it was akin to that of a human child aged 5 or 6. Upon sensing a threat to their life, their first instinct was undoubtedly to flee. From this perspective, there was nothing unusual about the two-headed python. Chu Xuan patiently continued to read on.
The python was fast.
In the blink of an eye, it had darted forward 100 meters, faster than a speedboat. The soldiers, attempting to pursue, couldn't even touch the spray, helplessly watching it escape. At this moment, Xiongxing and 3 other commanders, along with 4 superhumans from Black Blade, stood guard at the pass. Though behind them flowed the Dragon River, they were now within the boundaries of Hanhai Province. Their mission was to intercept the two-headed python within the borders of Linjiang Province. It would be best if they could kill it. Failing that, they had to inflict severe damage. With several such encounters, they would be able to slay it.
Here it comes.
Wang Yong's talent was his far-sighted vision. From afar, he saw enormous waves forming on the river's surface. Clearly, a fearsome creature underwater was rapidly approaching them.
Prepare. Xiongxing bellowed.
All the superhumans braced for battle. The waves grew closer. The threat of the underwater python became ever more pressing. Each person gripped their weapon tighter, unaware of the sweat beading on their skin.
Hiss.
The speeding python, failing to break in time, crashed into the barbed wire. The barbs at the connections deeply pierced its scales, pulling out a trail of flesh and blood. Instantly, the river beneath their feet was stained red with blood.
Fire.
Xiongxing waved his hand grandly. The muzzles of automatic rifles spewed flames. Bullets ceaselessly plunged into the water, hammering the body of the two-headed python.
Hiss hiss. The python shrieked again.
Its massive body churned wildly, whipping up a formidable surge. Some soldiers lost their footing and were swept away by the wave, plunging straight into the water. The ferocious python opened its massive jaws and bit the unfortunate soldiers in half. Continue firing, empty the magazines. Xiongxing's gaze was icy as he stood his ground, unyielding, and continued to command.
Bang bang bang.
The flames from the automatic rifles tore through the air, plunging into the water. However, this time, no painful screeches from the python could be heard. Nor could more blood be seen rising to the surface. The tail has been stolen. If detected on Amazon, report the violation. The soldiers' magazines were emptied one after another. Yet, as well-trained troops of the Linjiang army, they had prepared spare magazines. Without needing an order from their commander, they swiftly reloaded. Muzzles aimed at the water, they remained on high alert. After all, this was not their first encounter with this two-headed python. Xiongxing, Lin Xiao, and Li Taimu exchanged glances, instinctively sensing something was amiss. Had the two-headed python disappeared just like that? Or had it been gravely injured by their recent concentrated fire? Lin Qiao leaned out to peer at the water's surface, trying to discern the true state of the python. It seemed there was nothing left underwater. She was about to speak. Suddenly, a massive head burst forth from the water. Its maw opened to its fullest extent. With a fierce snap, it swallowed Lin Qiao whole. Plunk! The upper half of the two-headed python crashed back into the river. The huge wave it caused soaked everyone from head to toe. Li Taimu stared at the turbulent river, his eyes wide with disbelief.
Lin Qiao,
he roared in anger. Xiong Xing clenched the railing, his immense strength nearly warping the metal. His frame trembled slightly. Lin Qiao, one of the 5 commanders of the Linjiang army and a second-tier superhuman, might have ascended to 3rd tier within a year. And now she was gone just like that. Chu Xuan's eyebrows rose. This python was cunning indeed. It had deliberately sunk to the river's bottom, feigning injury. Waiting for the moment the Linjiang commanders let their guard down to strike lethally. Chu Xuan's interest was piqued. Even in life, the python's cunning was evident, and upon extracting its soul, this trait would undoubtedly remain. Cunning, a quality detestable in an enemy, yet reassuring in an ally. Then, the river's surface churned again. The two-headed python thrust its upper body out of the water. Those 2 heads and 4 snake eyes were coldly fixed on Xiongxing and Li Taimu. Having participated in its previous encirclement near Dragon River City, they were not forgotten by the creature. One of the python's heads began to twitch. After a spasm, it spat out Lin Qiao's tattered remains. They landed right in front of Xiongxing and Li Taimu. Those 4 snake eyes were filled with mockery. A chill ran through Wang Gangjian and the others.
They realized it now.
The python was not afraid of them.
This was a provocation. Pure provocation. I'm going to kill you.
Li Taimu roared angrily. The clothes on Lin Qiao, he had specially bought to give to her. For the python to spit out those clothes now corroded by stomach acid in front of him was even more painful than death itself. Xiongxing grabbed him. It's trying to provoke you. Stick to the planned attack, do not act rashly. Li Taimu took a deep breath, his eyes still bloodshot. All right. Xiongxing called out to Wang Gangjian and the other 3, change of plan, we need your support. It is our duty. Wang Gangjian nodded in agreement. With a fierce twist, Xiongxing wrenched the sturdy iron railing straight off. Then, with a burst of tremendous strength from his right arm, he hurled it forward. Whoosh! The iron railing cut through the air. The python hadn't even reacted. The sharp iron railing plunged deep into the scales beneath its neck.
Hiss!
The python let out a pained shriek.
Attack! Xiongxing bellowed.
He threw the iron spears, prepared earlier at his side, with all his might. Each one was thrown with the full force of his rage, as if channeling all his anger over his fallen comrade into the spears. His talent, similar to Wang Gongjian's, was enhancement-based, strengthening a part of the body. The two-headed python, a supernatural being, could battle in water, but humans could hardly enter it. So now, the best method was to use such projectile weapons for the attack. Li Taimu growled lowly, a fireball suddenly blazing in his palm. Once the fireball had condensed to a certain degree, he smashed it down fiercely.
Bang bang!
The fireballs targeted the python's head. He could use his internal psionic energy to condense flames. Superhumans categorized as elementals were rare. With the 2 commanders leading, the other superhumans and soldiers also launched their attacks.
Bullets poured down.
Psionic energy burst forth. Chu Xuan, overseeing everything, was brimming with interest. He noted that most superhuman talents awakened were of the enhancement type. That is, enhancing a particular organ or part of their body. Some had strengthened arms, others legs. Some had enhanced their eyes, ears, and so forth. Unlike Li Taimu, who could draw on accumulated psionic energy within his body and form it into flames, elemental superhumans were not common.
Boom, boom, boom.
A variety of attacks landed on the python, causing its flesh to split open and eliciting continuous screams of agony. The python's provocative behavior clearly did not work. It had intended to enrage the superhumans, luring them into the river to exploit its home field advantage and annihilate them one by one.
Yet, it failed.
Blood spurted from the python's body, quickly staining the river red. Every time its massive tail attempted a strike, the battle-hardened Xiongxing anticipated it. At those moments, he would hurl especially sharp, poison-coated iron spears, specifically prepared for the python. These potent poison spears forced the python to retract its massive tail defensively. After a chaotic battle, the python was left with numerous wounds, and a third of its scales were shattered. However, from the human-superhuman side, only 3 Linjiang army soldiers and 6 members of the Black Blade Security Company had fallen. Under the fierce firepower, the python's screams continued, seemingly powerless to retaliate. At this rate, the scales of battle would completely tip in favor of the superhumans. A fierce light flashed in the eyes of Xiongxing and Li Taimu. They sought vengeance for their fallen comrades. In the clouds above, Chu Xuan watched, yawning continuously. Until now, the python had not shown any traits that impressed him, except for its cunning nature which had piqued his slight interest. However, at this moment, Chu Xuan suddenly felt a familiar fluctuation from within the python's body.
This is...
Chu Xuan's spirits lifted. The next moment, the python raised its 2 heads sharply, and from its mouth, a dark purple mist erupted. The mist was sinister and eerie, filled with ghostly wails and wolf howls. If one listened closely, it was enough to send a shiver through the soul. The crowd instinctively sensed the ominous nature and scattered. But some were too slow to react and were enveloped by the dark purple mist. When the mist dispersed, only twisted and lifeless bodies with no warmth remained. Even a first-tier superhuman could only withstand a few more seconds in the purple-black mist before succumbing just like ordinary humans. Wang Gongjian's eyebrows twitched wildly at the sight. He recognized this mist. It was identical to the mist he saw near the Haotai Hotel area during the day of the zombie tide.
Run.
Run for your lives. Wang Gangjian, without a second thought, grabbed Wang Yong and ran. That day, tens of thousands of zombies and a large number of supernatural beings rushed into the area covered by the mist. All of them died. Compared to those zombies, they were pitifully few and weak. Unauthorized reproduction. This story has been taken without approval.
Report sightings.
How could they possibly withstand the assault of this dark purple mist? Tang Jinchuan and Song Dei, though unsure of what was happening, nonetheless followed closely behind. Xiongxing and Li Taimu were now enveloped in the purple-black mist as well. However, as seasoned second-tier superhumans, they were not as vulnerable. Moreover, the evil qi exhaled by the 2-headed python had already been significantly diluted. Despite the dilution, Xiongxing and Li Taimu still found it unbearable. It felt as though hordes of little demons had invaded their minds, vigorously tearing at their souls and flesh. They were powerless to resist, forced to watch helplessly as they were shredded to pieces. This sensation was fleeting. Just then, a calm voice echoed from the heavens, "Those who steal my things shall die." The voice seemed like a majestic chant that purified the soul, instantly shattering the ghostly wails and terrifying illusions. By the time Xiongxing and Li Taimu regained their senses, they found their bodies incredibly stiff. Several areas were even turning a deathly cyan. Clearly, if this continued, their bodies would perish. They looked up to the sky in unison and saw a figure standing on a flying sword, overlooking the mortal realm. The figure's garments fluttered, his gaze indifferent, reminiscent of the legendary Taoist immortals who transcended earthly desires. Wang Gangjian, Wang Yong, and the others who had fled stopped in their tracks upon hearing the voice, staring incredulously at the sky.
He had appeared.
The mysterious cultivator had appeared. Tang Jinchuan was visibly excited. Among those present, he was one of the few who had personally witnessed Chu Xuan. Unbeknownst to him, he had become an admirer of Chu Xuan. This enigmatic cultivator always appeared just in the nick of time. The python also fixed its gaze on Chu Xuan. Its 4 snake eyes brimmed with a mix of bloodthirst, brutality, fear, and rage. It could instantly tell that Chu Xuan was no ordinary being. Since its awakening and transformation into a supernatural being, it had never seen a human capable of flying. This man was the first. Moreover, the evil qi it had emitted was effortlessly neutralized by this human, and all it took was a single sentence. The python's wariness of Chu Xuan surpassed all enemies it had ever encountered. Chu Xuan looked at the 2-headed python with an indifferent expression. He had not expected that the python could exhale evil qi. It must have accidentally absorbed the evil during an encounter with the array. Its body must possess some peculiar quality. Otherwise it would have perished within the array long ago, let alone be able to store and use the evil qi as a trump card against its foes.
Hiss.
The python, feeling Chu Xuan's gaze, became agitated and let out a long, furious hiss. Its scales bristled as both snake heads lunged fiercely at Chu Xuan. "Hu Bao, it's up to you now," Chu Xuan casually remarked, his left hand holding out the tower.
Roar.
A hulking figure nearly 3 meters tall appeared as if from nowhere. The figure's fist smashed toward the attacking snake heads. Although this figure was colossal and far beyond ordinary humans, it still appeared lamb-like compared to the massive body of the 2-headed python. Everyone watching had the same thought: to punch such a gargantuan beast, wasn't that courting death? It seemed as futile as a mantis trying to stop a chariot, or a mayfly shaking a tree. As all eyes converged on the scene, a loud bang resonated. The fearsome snake's head was instantly burst by the fist. Eyeballs, teeth, scales, blood, bones, scattered everywhere, almost like bullets, penetrating everything in their path. Some unlucky onlookers who were too close were impaled by the debris. Those struck by this bloody misfortune had their throats, hearts, and arteries pierced, dying instantly on the spot. Everyone's eyes widened in shock, including Xiongxing and Li Taimu. They could hardly believe that the seemingly invincible two-headed python had one of its heads blown apart by a single punch. This was not something they, or even other superhumans like Yi Nantian, could achieve.